Well, good morning, everyone. What a pleasure to see you all. Welcome to Recovery Day 2025. My name is Daniel Franklin. I'm the Executive Director of the Vermont Association for Mental Health and Addiction Recovery, also known as VAMHAR. I'm really excited to welcome you all here in person after a few years of being remote and hybrid. So it's really great to feel the energy in this room and to come together. Thank you as well to all of our friends in homes and recovery centers and venues throughout Vermont and beyond. I know there are people watching from Florida, from Massachusetts, from Minnesota, from places all over the country. Because we have something here special here in Vermont, and they want to learn and be in community with us. I hope that everyone leaves this day knowing that all around you are helpers and servant leaders and people with lived experience who are ready, able, and willing to help share their experience, strength, and hope and the promise of their example. We are creating change, making a difference, and with each passing day, there are more and more people who join our ranks who can act as a North Star for something better. Even in the darkest of places, there is light. Even in the greatest of adversities, there is hope. And none of us are alone in our trials and triumphs. Today is a day of celebration, of recovery in all of its forms, of being here together in community and connection. It is also a day of remembrance of the friends and colleagues and family members and loved ones we've lost, and the life and the work that we choose to live that we choose to do with them forever in our hearts and in our minds. It's a vigil for those who are still struggling, and a promise to recommit ourselves to this life of service to others. And finally, it's a day of advocacy, where we stand together to show that not only are recovery and healing possible, but in fact probable with the right supports and services available to all people across the state, and with the support of our funders, our elected leaders, and our allies. Until no lives are lost to diseases of despair and all lives are valued without qualification, we cannot rest or relent in our calling. We have a special day planned. We'll hear from some of our elected leaders and allies. We'll celebrate some of the remarkable people who have made a difference in our field and the settings where we do this life-changing work. We'll hear stories from peers in recovery, and we'll have an opportunity to share with one another what recovery means to us. Before bringing up our next speaker, I'd like to thank our sponsors and collaborators, including Recovery Partners of Vermont, the Vermont Alliance for Recovery Residences, and Vermont Humanities, who are here with us today with copies of Vermont Reads books, including this year's Vermont Reads Book of the Year, Gather, by Vermont author Kenneth Cadow, the themes of which are so relevant to what we're talking about today. So please go and see Vermont Humanities, pick up a copy of the books, and really connect with our partners at Vermont Humanities. This day simply wouldn't be possible without them, so thank you. We're grateful to the Capitol Plaza Hotel, which was VAMHAR's home for many years, who gave us a deal on the venue and for all of their work setting today up. Finally, thank you to Orca Media, who are recording today's program and live streaming it. Thank you to the planning committee, which included Gary DeCarolis, Susie Walker, Gregory Tatro, Martina Anderson, Lisa Lord, Courtney Harness, Jeff Moreau, Liza Ryan, Rosemary Rosa, Allie Mullen, Lila Bennett, and Tanner Parento. Thank you to Gary Seaton, who's taking photographs today. Please feel free to take photographs yourselves, and we would love to collect those and be able to share those out. We're also grateful to everyone else who helped put together today, including our award presenters and other partners. Another key collaborator was Bob Purvis, the director of the Turning Point Center of Central Vermont, who I learned just yesterday is retiring soon. I added this in last night because I think it's imperative to continue to stand on the shoulders of giants. I could say many things about Bob, and I take solace in knowing that we got to recognize him with a Lifetime Achievement Award previously. I know he's handing over his legacy, which means a lot to him, to a really special person in Rosemary Rosa and the whole team at the Turning Point Center of Central Vermont. But the one thing that I just want to share with you, and I think is an example for all of us, is to say that I appreciate how freely Bob shared of his knowledge, his experience, his connections, his resources to help others, myself included. When I was up and coming in this field, I felt the same way about Gary. When we have these amazing people who pave the way for us, and then they hand it off in good to others, it means a lot, and it carries on your legacy forever. So thank you, Bob. Along the same lines, today will be the last official recovery day for Dr. Mark Levine, the Commissioner of the Vermont Department of Health. He's the longest serving Commissioner of the Vermont Department of Health ever at 8 years, which is no small task given the COVID pandemic and other things that we experience. So we celebrate with Commissioner Levine and thank him for always being here for us. And now it's my pleasure to bring up another giant of the recovery world who's ready to pass the mantle of leadership, our friend, mentor, and colleague, and outgoing director of Recovery Partners of Vermont, Gary DeCarolis.
Good morning. Happy Recovery Day, everyone. Good to see you all. I'd like to thank the committee that put this all together, like as Daniel mentioned earlier, especially Daniel and Martina and Allie and Susie. They put a lot of work in, as just like a good meal at home. You spend hours preparing it, and then it's done within 5 minutes, so they deserve it. Anyhow. Also, there's a number of volunteers today that are testifying over in the legislature, hey Peter, that really deserve our thanks. We got 3 or 4 committees that we're going to be testifying in, and that's really what this day is all about, is 1, celebrating, and 2, moving us forward. And getting into the legislature like we're going to do really means a lot in terms of building our recovery community across the state. I want to congratulate all the award winners, well-deserved, and to all of you here, a big thank you. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all of you. I want to thank you in particular for teaching us that it is not how many times we're knocked down, but it is how many times we get back up that matters. I want to thank you for your courage, your dedication, your determination, your self-awareness, and just your guts for being here today. Thank you. I was going to say, let's have a standing ovation for you. Let's go. Come on, get up and give yourselves a... Woo-hoo! Well deserved. Thank you. So I'd like to introduce the next Executive Director of Recovery Partners of Vermont. She is in long-term recovery. She was the former executive director of the Turning Point of Windham County, and more recently developed curriculum and did training for Faces and Voices in Recovery. Susie Walker. And Susie, where is Susie? Over there, over side, okay. Susie's gonna walk you through our legislative agenda that we're gonna be advocating for in a couple of minutes over. Come on, Susie, come on over. Oh. You want to get that? Okay. She's going to get that. In the meantime, let me just tell you that Susie and I have been working together for the last 6 weeks. Any leaving executive director, I encourage you to have this wonderful 6-week transition time between the work that you've done and the work that will be done. And we've had a wonderful partnership over the last couple of months to get her ready for what she's going to be doing starting tomorrow. So it's been an honor for me to work with her, honor for me to work representing all of you. And I only see good things coming in the future. And here she comes. She likes that long walk up front, so you really get to appreciate and savor Susie Walker. Okay, thank you all. Bye.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your patience with me. I forgot about this part, but as I just want to say thank you to Gary. I would wish this kind of a transition and welcome for anybody coming into especially a leadership position where I got to shadow him and ask questions and just do a really intentional knowledge transfer and series of introductions and getting to see a lot of you again for the first time in a couple years. And it's such a privilege that it's such a blend of nostalgia and then really exciting, evolving new things that I get to be a part of with you. So I appreciate that and looking forward to 2025 with you. I'm here to share about our legislative ask. I think most of you know, but I'll say the Recovery Partners of Vermont is the umbrella member organization for Vermont's local recovery centers and residences, which work across the state to support individuals and their families in their recovery from alcohol and other substance use disorders. The Recovery Partners of Vermont is asking the General Assembly to support the following appropriations in the fiscal year 2026 budget. We're asking for a $1.6 million increase in the base funding for Vermont's local recovery organizations. We're asking for $360,000 increase to the base funding for Vermont's certified recovery residences. And with the opioid settlement funds, we're asking for these recovery appropriations. $1.5 million to support startup and operational costs of recovery residences, which are still needed in so many areas. $325,000 to provide scholarships to cover the first month fees for individuals entering a recovery residence. That's just such an important juncture for a lot of people, and if we can lift them up, that's amazing. And then finally, $500,000 to establish an oral health fund for people in early recovery. And I know we've all seen folks struggle in that area, and it's such, I've seen people get their oral health tended to, and it just changes everything for their spirit and their motivation. So I think that's an amazing thing. So you all know the work that the recovery organizations do, and it's coming back after a couple years. It's amazing to see the kind of support, the way the state is embracing the work that you all do every day, and it's a privilege to be part of it, and I look forward to it. Thank you.
Now, to introduce our keynote speaker, I will bring up Gregory Tatro from Jenna's Promise.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Gregory Tatro. I'm a co-founder of Jenna's Promise, but if you know me, you know I've always been a bit of a political buff. It's a lifelong passion that I've had. In fact, just the other day, I was baking President's Day cupcakes with my son to hand out to folks at Jenna's Promise. Who knew learning about Franklin Pierce could also be delicious? I follow every presidential campaign, every major announcement, every debate. But during North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum's presidential announcement event in 2023, something unexpected happened. I heard the First Lady of the state, Catherine Burgum, say the words that stopped me in my tracks. Quote, "After becoming First Lady, I made the decision to go public with my battle with the disease of addiction. Today, I stand before you as a person celebrating over 21 years in long-term recovery." She spoke about the struggles of families, the tidal wave of overdose deaths, and she did it on a national stage as part of a presidential announcement speech. Wow. Suddenly, this wasn't about politics anymore. It was about bringing an issue our country too often ignores out of the shadows and in front of people who might not have been thinking about it. I was inspired. A few days later, I saw that she and Governor Burgum would be in New Hampshire, so my wife Amy and I packed our 6-year-old and our 6-month-old and made the drive to Miracle Acres Farm in Milford, New Hampshire. It's a drive. And we met Catherine. From the moment we began speaking, I could see that she was somebody really special. She was one of the most genuine people I'd ever met. And in politics, that's all too rare for trade, I'd say. And her passion for tackling the substance use crisis made her almost shimmer with energy. She told us about Recovery Reinvented, which is her initiative to eliminate the shame and stigma surrounding addiction. From there, the connection grew, and we eventually traveled to North Dakota for the Recovery Reinvented conference this past October, and we got to see just how powerful this movement was. It wasn't just another conference. It felt like a force of change. You could feel the passion in the room. You could see the energy and the hope. Because that's who Catherine is. She doesn't just speak about recovery. She builds real connections and creates real momentum. I saw in the eyes of many, many North Dakotans I got to meet. She's used her platform to break the silence, to lift the stigma, and to remind people that recovery is not just possible, it's worth fighting for. Catherine's devoted her life to breaking down these barriers and changing that conversation. As the founder of Recovery Reinvented, as a storyteller, a person in long-term recovery, and a board member of Hazelden Betty Ford, her impact reaches far and wide. She's proof that when we stop letting stigma dictate the conversation, when we replace shame with action, we can create real change. So it's an honor to introduce somebody who has been a leader, an advocate, and above all, an inspiration. So please welcome Catherine Burgum.
I should not be on mute anymore. Am I good? You can hear me now? Yes. Yay. Yay. Well, thank you so much, Gregory, for that wonderful introduction. And I'm not a technical genius, so I'm just saying, if anything happens with this and, you can't get a hold of me, just text me and I'll switch to a different medium. But anyway, I am so grateful for the invitation to join you today for this super important event, and thank you again, Gregory, for that wonderful introduction. I will never forget the day that we met in New Hampshire a couple years ago. I could not believe that you and Amy, along with your boys, Hayes and Eisen, drove 3 hours to meet someone you did not know, to talk about addiction and recovery. That is the power of advocacy. Making connections, creating relationships, and working together to support people, families, and communities struggling through addiction and finding recovery. I would like to have met Jenna. After meeting your family, your mom and dad, Dawn and Greg, and seeing and feeling the positive impacts, the force for good you are all making through Jenna's Promise, offering opportunities for people to, offering opportunities for people and communities to come together, to work together, to change, and for sobriety and change. I can only imagine the force for good that Jenna was to the people in her life. Thanks to all of you for investing in yourselves and in your communities by participating in Recovery Day. Your presence is a testament to the power of community and the unwavering belief that we can make a difference when we work together. Well, believe me when I tell you that I never ever thought I would be giving a keynote talk to anyone about anything. Let me tell you a little bit about my story, and it might become clear why. So, during my first interview as First Lady of North Dakota, I decided to share my story of addiction, of my addiction to alcohol, and my recovery. Now, my husband was shocked because, that I even wanted to talk about it, because I had never talked about it publicly. I kept my 2-decade struggle with addiction and my recovery a shameful secret. When I told the reporter that I struggled with addiction and had been in recovery for 15 years at that time, I felt a 100-pound weight was lifted off my shoulders. I began the process of letting go of my shameful secret. I started focusing on how I could help eliminate the shame and stigma of the brain disease of addiction. Now that led to launching a unique day-long conference called Recovery Reinvented, which Gregory talked about. And the primary mission, he got that exactly right, and the goal for the conference is to eliminate the shame and stigma of addiction. And my husband and I emceed that event for 8 years. One for every year we were in office. And let me tell you, it was the highlight of my year for sure, and I think it was pretty special to him too. And every year I stood on that Recovery Reinvented stage and told my story. Because I thought that, if I could help at least one person by sharing my story, it would be worth it. If I could provide the hope that recovery is possible for anyone who's struggling, it would be so worth it. And in so many ways, my addiction story has given me renewed purpose and helped me find my place in our fight to end the stigma of addiction. Since that day in 2017, when I was talking to the reporter, I've told my story a lot. And I have been encouraging others to share their stories to help eliminate stigma. My journey with addiction started when I was in high school in Jamestown, North Dakota. I took my first drink in high school, and I had my first blackout from drinking when I was in high school. I was a blackout drinker from the beginning. On the outside, it looked like I had everything. I was popular, I had a lot of friends, I was involved in a lot of activities, I was athletic, I was an honor student. But there were so many days when I didn't want to get out of bed. But I didn't really understand why. Now, I'm a descendant from a long line of Vikings. I'm very Scandinavian. And let's face it, my relatives pillaged and conquered. In my family, we didn't sit around the dinner table talking about feelings or asking for help. We were expected to talk about our achievements, even if we fell short and were criticized. When I took my first drink in high school, I thought I had found nirvana, because all those voices in my head seemed to go away. And I was able to be who I wanted to be and think how I wanted to think. But, now I know all of those things, and the reason why I didn't want to get out of bed, they were all related to anxiety and depression. And that nirvana turned into a living hell. I struggled with the disease of addiction, my addiction to alcohol for the next 20 years. And those years were miserable, mostly because of the shame and stigma that were my constant companions. And people told me I should stop drinking. I had negative consequences. The honor student became a criminal with a mugshot and a DUI record. I tried so many times to get sober. For 8 years in a row, I kept trying and I kept relapsing. I would get a year of recovery and then I would go back out. I'd get 3 months and I would go back out and start drinking. And I did that for 8 years. And at the end of those 8 years, I was suicidal almost every time I drank. I hated that person in the mirror. I hated the thoughts in my head and how I continually thought I was worthless. You know, I now know I had undiagnosed and untreated depression. And drinking alcohol, which is a depressant, took me to the lowest points in my life. I continued to feel hopeless, but I was out walking one day and you know, I was again trying to figure out, you know, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get sober? And the thought crossed my mind, well, maybe I just should, you know, put it out there. Like, put it out there to the universe, to someone who might be listening. And I didn't have a lot of spirituality. I wasn't part of an organized religion. But this always gets me. But I thought, you know, what could it hurt? Maybe someone out there could help me. So I said out loud to no one in particular, because there wasn't anyone around me, I said, I don't know if anyone is there, but I need help. And I've been sober since I uttered those words. I get so emotional because I'm so grateful, and that was the divine intervention I needed in my life. That same day, I found people who struggled with the same things I struggled with, and I stayed with them because I wanted the happy life and the opportunities that they had. They had good friends, jobs, and homes, and most of all, they didn't seem to feel the constant shame that I was feeling. I did whatever they told me to do, including, well, whatever, to try to stay sober. And I was really completely willing to do whatever it would take because I didn't want to die. I did not want that. So that led me to the journey I'm on today, sitting in front of my computer, talking with you. And I have been, this is a really great day because today is my sobriety birthday. Woohoo! I've been recovering from alcohol addiction for 23 years now. So when Gregory said, hey, did you need to I was like, wow, what a perfect opportunity to celebrate the gratitude I have for every single one of those days. Because, you know, whether those days that made up those 23 years were good or bad, you know, every single one of those days were so much better without addiction in my life. And I tell people, never, ever give up hope for recovery, because recovery is always possible. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about shame, because shame has been a lifelong companion of mine. And I'm, you know, I have to say, I still have a lot of shame. And there's different types of shame. Now, ordinary shame can be a temporary response to a specific action. Healthy shame can guide us to make better choices. And then there's a thing called toxic shame, which is a whole different thing altogether. Toxic shame is a deeply ingrained feeling of worthlessness and self-loathing. And as Brené Brown defines it, shame is the intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love and belonging. And toxic shame can manifest in various ways in people, including constant self-criticism, perfectionism, low self-esteem, depression and anxiety, procrastination, sensitivity to criticism. And toxic shame often begins in childhood when negative messages from parents and caregivers are internalized. And that's unfortunately where the toxic shame began in my life as a child. Toxic shame can also occur when children experience neglect, abuse, and criticism. Now, John Bradshaw is an expert on toxic shame. I encourage you all to read his stuff. And he explains that toxic shame becomes the core of your identity, affecting every emotion and thought. And when I read that, I thought about it and I thought, every emotion. So whether I'm happy, sad, excited, I have joy or sorrow, every single one of those emotions has some level of shame, which is sad. And the impact of toxic shame is profound. It leads to depression and anxiety and a host of other mental health issues. And the generational transmission of toxic shame can have long-lasting effects, and it is usually generationally a part of life for people. And the other thing about toxic shame is that, I guess I would say one thing about the generational thing is I'm pretty sure both of my parents had toxic shame in their life as children and as adults. But toxic shame can be removed. It involves challenging and reframing negative self-beliefs, seeking therapy, and building supportive relationships. Talking about toxic shame is essential for breaking the hold. I'm talking about toxic shame because I really just started diving into it not too long ago. Because I realized that even though I'd been in recovery for 22 years, I've created all these self-imposed barriers around me that to me didn't seem like they could ever be removed. And those barriers were really holding me back from my true self. And I felt like I was in a cave, with like one way out, and I couldn't find the way out. So I wanted to better understand why I felt that way and if it was possible to get out of the cave. And I read something by John Bradshaw, and he said that healing the shame that binds you requires confronting and understanding the root cause of toxic shame. And as I was learning about toxic shame, I was realizing there were so many things I didn't understand about myself, like why I found it hard to look people in the eye, why I have this constant stream of negative thoughts in my head, and why perfectionism was a constant, unachievable goal. And then I read it and realized that these were characteristics of someone with toxic shame. And I actually ran these things by my husband. I'm like, do you ever have these thoughts in your head? And do you have a hard time looking people in the eye? He's like, no. And then I was like, oh, God, you're just too perfect. That's all there is. You're just too perfect. But anyway, no one's perfect. We all know that. But anyway, I also bring up toxic shame because it's very, very closely linked to addiction. Some people say that there's 100% correlation between toxic shame and addiction. And John Bradshaw says that toxic shame is a substantial underlying factor contributing to addiction. Because the side effects of toxic shame create intense feelings of unworthiness and self-loathing, and they can drive individuals to seek relief through substances and addictive behaviors. This creates a vicious cycle where the shame fuels the addiction, and the addiction in turn exacerbates the shame. Now I have a better understanding of why I am the way I am and why addiction and recovery are part of my story. And I'm sharing this with you today because I think maybe some of you in the audience, some of you listening can relate to what I've been saying about toxic shame. And maybe toxic shame is holding you back in your life. Shame and stigma go hand in hand when it comes to addiction. Every time I give a talk, I share that the easiest, quickest, cheapest way to eliminate stigma is talk. See, talk is the solution for eliminating stigma for anything. Talk breaks down the shame and the stigma. It normalizes the conversation around the brain disease of addiction and makes it like any other chronic disease, like diabetes. Having the courage to talk about how addiction has impacted your life or your loved ones, your friends, and community is so important. because you are eliminating stigma. When you engage in these discussions, and you know what? You will be saving lives. Because when there's less stigma or no stigma, people reach out for help and lives are saved. So I believe the stigma of addiction is exacerbated by how we characterize, label, and define addiction. Is addiction a disease, a disorder, a moral failing? Well, the scientific interpretation is that addiction is a chronic brain disorder characterized by compulsive drug seeking and use, despite harmful consequences. The medical definition, the American Society of Addiction Medicine defines addiction as a treatable, chronic medical disease involving complex interactions among brain circuits, genetics, the environment, and in an individual's life experiences. Addiction is considered a chronic brain disorder because it involves lasting changes in brain function. And the addiction field describes addiction as a primary chronic disease centered in the brain with psychological and social components. And here's my thought. If we can't agree on what addiction is, how do we come together with a unified vision for eliminating the shame and stigma of addiction? And here's my take on this. Diseases are respected in an unorthodox way by the medical community and society at large. Diseases get attention. Diseases get research for a cure. Diseases are treated entirely different than disorders. And the people who have diseases are not shamed. They're not shamed by others. People have empathy and sympathy for people with a disease. And society doesn't cast a wide swath of stigma for people who have other diseases like cancer or other brain diseases like Alzheimer's. So in essence, shame and stigma are like two sides of the same coin, both significantly contributing to a person's sense of adversity, to getting help for addiction and finding recovery. Well, is it possible to reduce and eliminate the stigma of addiction? I'm here today to tell you, yes, it most definitely is. During my time as First Lady, after we started the Recovery Reinvented conference that became a movement in our state for 8 years and is still continuing today, people would say to me, I feel like things are changing. I feel like more people are talking about addiction and there's less shame and stigma. And I loved hearing that. But I also knew that data changes minds and opens up opportunities for investment. So in 2018, we did a survey and we measured the base level of stigma towards addiction in North Dakota. And then we measured again in 2021. And the result was incredible, I think, because through grassroots movements and methods and advocacy with no cost to taxpayers or the people of North Dakota, we have reduced the stigma in our state by 12%. Just by talking about the disease of addiction. If we'd taken that measurement the first year we were in office, and the last measurement the last year we were in office, I believe we probably doubled that number. You know what? It was all for free because people like you who advocate for people, supporting people who struggle with addiction and talk about this struggle, it's because of people like you. It's grassroots movements. The progress we made in North Dakota is the direct result of advocacy into action in North Dakota communities. And you all have the same opportunity to eliminate stigma in your communities through advocacy and grassroots efforts. Many of you that are at the event today are individuals who face the harsh realities of addiction and have emerged as beacons of resilience and courage. You are the ones who persevere. You never give up hope for recovery, and you inspire all of us with your strength and determination. And you give back to others by sharing your gift of recovery and helping others who are struggling. Many of your family members or friends have never given up hope for loved ones who struggle with addiction. You're steadfast and determined to do all you can to help those that you love. And many of you are peer support specialists. And I think this is one of the most impactful solutions to decreasing relapses, decreasing recidivism, and increasing possibilities for people to be productive, happy family members, community members, and lead wonderful lives. The opportunity to become a professional peer support specialist and have this job gives people in recovery who have felonies the opportunity for a career. In the US, this is my belief, we legally discriminate against people with felonies, making it incredibly difficult for them to find good paying and rewarding jobs. Now in North Dakota, 50% of our state is rural. We only have 750,000 people in our whole state. And we never have enough services for behavioral health. So we started peer support specialists program also, like many other states. Now we have over 1,000 trained peer support specialists, and you know what? The majority of those are Native Americans from the 5 tribes that we share geography with in North Dakota. And they go back to the reservation, which has even less services or no services, and they help the people in their tribes. Thanks to all of you who are peer supports, making a huge difference, a huge positive difference in communities and in people's lives. Well, thank you all for the gift you've given yourself to be here today, to make a difference in your life and the lives of others. Now, you know, we all go through times of change. I know I do. And after I was no longer First Lady, which is still where I am today, you know, I was going through a time of change, you know, and you know, I was sort of questioning, what am I becoming in my life now? And maybe I had a little bit of fear around that change. But you know what? We don't need to know what we are becoming to find peace. What we need to know is what we believe in. And we can become what we believe in. If we believe in ourselves, we can be anything to anyone we want to be. We just need to give ourselves the freedom to become what we believe in. If we believe in sobriety, we can be sober. Please don't ever give up hope for recovery. I'm so grateful for the honor to be with you today, and I'm so grateful to celebrate my sobriety birthday with you today. And more than anything, I'm grateful to be Catherine, a face and voice of recovery. Thank you so much. I hope you have a fabulous day.
Thank you so much, Catherine, for joining us all the way from California so early in the morning. And we're just so grateful to you for being so authentic and sharing your wisdom and your experience and your strength.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Have a great time.
All right, I'm throwing us our first curveball for the day. Ethan, you're on deck, but I'm actually going to make a little swap-a-doo here. We've got a lot of testimony going on today, and it's a real privilege to have some of our leaders. And what I'll say is that change happens when good people get into positions and choose to stand up and to make change. And one of those people, I firmly believe, even in a system, regardless of what you believe about the system, is part of our system and must and can change to impact lives. So first of all, I just want to say thank you also to Deputy Commissioner Kristen Calver, who's here, to Director of Policy and Integration Isaac Dano, who's done just incredible work in the Department of Corrections, and now to share some words with us, our Commissioner of the Vermont Department of Corrections, Nick Demmel.
Morning. I feel it's a bit unfair to ask somebody to follow the keynote address, but I'll do my best here. So good morning again. My name is Nick Demmel. I'm the Commissioner of Corrections for the state of Vermont, and I'm honored to be here to join you all for Recovery Day and celebrating the great work that's happening across our state. Special thanks to VAMHAR and the Recovery Partners of Vermont for bringing us together for a really important day for our department, and I know for many of the individuals across the room. Some may wonder, why is the head of a correctional agency speaking at a recovery event? It seems prisons can be antithetical to recovery, to wellness, to healing, and in many places across the country, that's true. But here in Vermont, we're trying to chart a different course, one where incarceration, rock bottom for so many, becomes a solid foundation for transformation and for recovery. To illustrate this, I want to talk about a young man from our southern state correctional facility named Mike. Mike is, in many ways, fortunate. He has a loving family. He has a college degree. He has a good heart. But like 1,000 other incarcerated Vermonters, he struggles with an opioid use disorder. His addiction led him to the criminal legal system, into my custody. Mike represents what so many people in our justice system are experiencing. Given the right resources, treatment, counseling, support, these individuals, our neighbors, have the potential to heal and return to our communities stronger to join us back in our neighborhoods. And that's exactly what Mike is working on right now. And he's not doing it alone. I think this is the important piece. Thanks to the Turning Point, he has a peer recovery coach. His name's Johnny. And he meets him inside our correctional facilities. And Johnny will be there when Mike walks out the prison door. Because here in Vermont, we don't want to let incarceration be the end of the story. We see this as a moment to intervene, to offer a hand up. And we're so grateful for those who have helped to make this possible. Our governor, Phil Scott, our legislature, Senator Peter Welch, Tracy Hawk, and all of the recovery partners from across Vermont who are working every day to expand access to recovery coaches in our correctional system. But this work is not new to our state. Vermont has long been a leader in this work. In 2018, we became one of the first states in the country to offer medically assisted treatment statewide in every correctional facility. Even today, fewer than half of the prisons in the United States and less than a third of the jails provide this critical treatment to folks suffering from an opioid use disorder. And our work isn't done, and our system is not perfect. I will be the first one to tell you. But we continue to push addiction medicine forward, seeking to reach the community standard of care while filling gaps for individuals as they reenter our communities. And my department will keep advocating for new approaches, from injectable opioid treatment to transforming our facilities into cutting-edge recovery centers. In closing, this work is too big. It's too important for any single agency to tackle alone, let alone a correctional system. It takes all of us to do this. So today, I ask you, our community partners, our state partners, to stand with us and help make incarceration a place where Vermonters receive the best possible addiction treatment. We can do this not only to help individuals heal while they're incarcerated, but to make our communities safer, to make them stronger, and bring people back to our communities in a better place than when they left them. I deeply appreciate the opportunity to be with you today, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Nick, and also Cheyenne Steventon for being here as well. By the way, we're graced with Bess O'Brien with Kingdom County Productions, who had an amazing film about circles of support and accountability, which went on tour for quite a while. But it's an incredible film if you've never gotten to see it, about how people receive supports back in our communities post incarceration. So definitely you'll hear from Bess here in a few minutes. But it's an incredible film, very powerful. Now it's my pleasure to bring up Ethan Avendano Lawrence to read a letter from Senator Bernie Sanders.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm going to read a letter from Senator Sanders, but I want to just take a minute to situate in, as a congressional staffer, the amount of gratitude that we have for the work that you all are doing, both folks who are in recovery and the folks who are leading these recovery organizations and leading that kind of support. So in congressional offices, of course, we have a really robust casework team in all of our offices. And especially for our office, the central kind of tenet there is to make sure that when constituents call in talking about federal policy, talking about how federal policy is making an impact or not making an impact in their lives, that we're able to talk about that with them. We're able to kind of like connect some dots. But also, if they're not hearing back from federal agencies, right, the federal government isn't responsive to them, we help push that along. We make calls to Social Security for veterans benefits, for Medicare, wherever we can, to help make federal government working a reality for Vermonters. Sometimes those calls are not so much about the macro. They're about what an individual constituent and a Vermonter is calling about when they're exhausted, when they're in recovery, when they're feeling hopeless, when they're feeling isolated, and they're on their last string. And I've had multiple calls personally, because I'm the guy that calls back when it tends to be about mental health care, substance use disorder. I've had multiple calls where I'm talking with a constituent, and the thing that they keep holding on to is that they know this person in one of your recovery organizations, that despite all the shame that they feel, they know that they're cared for. They know that they're loved just as they are. So when I tell you thank you, I mean that. Because while we can't always say we're going to be able to fix this tomorrow, right? In fact, let's be honest, rarely, right? But it is incredibly impactful what you're doing when you are authentic to yourselves, when we are combating the shame and stigma of addiction. That makes a difference in our lives, and it makes a difference in the lives of Vermonters, and we see that, and we see you. I'm grateful for you. But the senator wishes he could be here with you today. Of course, this is a session day, so he's of course in DC, but wanted to make sure that our presence was represented and his presence was felt here as well, and wanted to send a letter to share with you all. Dear friends, I'm sorry that I'm unable to join you today, but I thank you for the opportunity to honor the important work you all are doing for our community and our state. At times, I know this feels like an impossible task, but there is reason for hope. None of us are immune to the effects of addiction, but let me say this. To all of the Vermonters who are struggling with addiction and substance use, with opioids, alcohol, and other substances, and their families and loved ones, you are not alone. In Vermont, we have made some progress. Through congressionally directed spending, my office has been able to help expand clinical services for mothers struggling with addiction statewide, recovery center outreach, and prevention efforts to help young people find mentors and community before they turn to drugs. We've also been able to increase affordable housing construction and job training, which can set up communities and Vermonters for success. Yet much more has to be done, and today is an important reminder of that. Last year, Democrats and Republicans had agreed to a funding package that included the reauthorization of the SUPPORT Act. This bill would heavily invest in prevention, treatment, recovery services for those struggling with mental health conditions and substance use disorder. It had investments in recovery centers, sober housing, medically assisted treatment, and outreach. After months of negotiations and agreements from both sides of the aisle on this and other important policies, one tweet from an unelected billionaire stripped them from the final funding bill. Let me be clear, that's not democracy, that is oligarchy. At a time of massive wealth and income inequality, we must not provide more tax breaks to billionaires, paid for by huge cuts to Medicaid and services and other programs that working families and low-income people desperately need. Community and connection make all of the difference when you are in recovery. We should take great pride in all of the Vermonters in recovery for their hard work and their bravery, and the leaders in our Vermont recovery community who continue to make sure nobody is alone in fighting this disease. Sincerely, Senator Bernie Sanders.
The only thing that would have made that better was if we got your breast Bernie impression, but next time. We good? Okay. Next up is a video from Senator Peter Welch.
Thank you for attending this annual Advocacy Day at the State House. And thank you to the Vermont Association for Mental Health and Addiction Recovery in collaboration with Recovery Partners of Vermont for doing the hard work of organizing this event. As reflected in this year's theme, recovery is successful when people have a place for connection and community. When we share compassion, support, and understanding, we dramatically improve the chances for recovery. We are all in the midst of a brutal crisis, one that is fueled by fentanyl. And it's clear that this crisis has shifted and that the strategies to address the epidemic must also adapt. And you are on the front lines. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and speaking with lawmakers today on how we can make progress in this battle. I'll continue to support you, whether it's through working across the aisle, supporting more funding, or advocating for more flexibility. Thank you for all that you do, and I wish you the very best in success today.
And now we'll have a video from Congresswoman Becca Balint.
Hello, I'm Congresswoman Becca Balint. Welcome to Recovery Day 2025. I really wish I could be with you in person, but please know that I'm definitely with you in heart and in spirit. For all of you who are in recovery and for all of you who are helping others through that journey, please know that I truly appreciate what you're doing. What you're doing is not easy, but it is critically important for each of you, for your families, for your communities, and also for the state. So thank you so much. Today, I really wanted to talk with you about an issue that so many of us struggle with, something that holds us back, something that sometimes can torture us, and I'm talking about perfectionism. So I want to start with a basic truth, and that is the reality of the thing, which is perfectionism is just not possible, period. When we chase it, we hold ourselves to an impossible standard. Why is it impossible? because we're all flawed humans, every single one of us, no exceptions. And the day that I accepted that fact was a turning point for me. Opportunities opened up for me because I was no longer paralyzed by my fear of failing. What I realized is that perfectionism prevents
Okay. I'm not good with awkward silence, so we'll. All right. We're just gonna. They're gonna load a already downloaded version here. Honestly, if that's the worst thing that happens today, we're in good shape. So actually, while we're gonna do that, may I ask Gary and Bess to come on up and tell some stories of Writers for Recovery. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Thank you, Gary.
Hello, hello, hello. Oh my gosh. Hi, I'm Bess O'Brien from Writers for Recovery, Kingdom County Productions.
And I'm Gary Miller, also from Writers for Recovery.
And this is our, woo! And this is our song and dance. We always do. So, just quick, Writers for Recovery was started about 12 years ago. Well, actually 10 years ago, because we just celebrated our 10th anniversary. Woohoo! It started after, thank you, it started after a film that I made, The Hungry Heart, which was about the opiate epidemic back a long time ago. And I wanted to keep working with wonderful folks like you. So we've been doing Writers for Recovery for 10 years. Gary's going to tell you a little bit about it. Then we're going to have a couple people come and read some of the pieces that they've created over the last 10 years.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all. I see a lot of people out there who I know, and it's nice to see you all. Writers for Recovery works in a pretty simple way. We go all around the state, and we go live on Zoom, and we give people short writing prompts. They could be about recovery, or they could be about anything. We don't have any agenda in mind when we ask people to write. We just want them to write what they're feeling in the moment. I'll give you an example of some of the prompts we might give. I'm still here. What I left behind. Here's what it will take. Or even, as you will hear later, hell yeah. That's one of our prompts. And people write for 7 minutes. And then if they want, they can share their work and we talk about it. And what happens in those moments is really pretty amazing. People tell stories they've never told anyone. They learn new things about themselves. They form bonds with each other. It's really quite a profound experience, and I've been so happy to be a part of it as someone in recovery myself. So I hope that we will be able to come and see all of you somewhere. I want to let you know that we do have some Zoom groups coming up, a 10-week Zoom session, and please tell everyone you know. I'll be putting that up on our website, writersforrecovery.org. And you can come and join us and also keep your eyes out. We'll be coming to the Turning Point in Barrie pretty soon, I believe, and we have a lot of other workshops coming up around the state. So love to see any and all of you there, and please spread the word.
And by the way, I don't know if our head of corrections is here, but we've been working in the corrections for 10 years. We do Writers for Recovery workshops in the corrections. Also, I want to thank Department of Human Services for their support, all of our funders, and we also work in all the treatment centers. So if you're interested, go to our website, book us, we're there. I just want to read one quick thing that somebody wrote, because this is what it's all about. It's called When It's Going Right. That's the prompt. When it's going right, right. When it's going well, right. When it's going wrong, right. When you've got it all figured out, right. When you just can't take it anymore, right. When you hate him, right. When you love him, right. When you wish he was here, right. When you want to scream, right. When you want to cry, right. When you want to die, right. When you want her to die, right. When you regret everything, right. When you regret nothing, right. When you couldn't be happier, right. When you couldn't be angrier, right. When you don't know what you feel, right. When it's going just right, just right. Yes.
Thanks, everybody. And I just want, even if you don't come to a Writers for Recovery workshop, Please keep in mind that writing is such a great recovery tool, and it's so simple, and you can do it yourself with a piece of paper and a pencil. So
first off, we're going to have Matt, who's going to come and read. Matt, where did you do Writers for Recovery? Online with Gary. Okay, by the way, we have people from all over the world in our Writers for Recovery workshops online. So it's been great. Yeah.
I just want to say Maddie Adams is a personal friend of mine. I've made a lot of great friends, and now we go fishing together, and I'm looking forward to a little trout fishing with you coming up. So.
Me too, Gary. This was, I thought I imagined it. It wasn't voices, usually, or knowing futures, or bringing up the dead and gone from within their eyelid sutures. It wasn't obvious. It had no fact basis. It left no trail, no evidence, unless you count the way he floated across time and popped out in literal physical spaces and saw faces, watched them go through human paces, that before too long would be lied and tried and gaslit in every effort to make him think, believe, like cult brain reprogramming, that he had, in fact, imagined it all. Imagined there were no people laughing at his disarray, no lovers in love with someone else, no one concerned for his downward spiral, no stories of any kind, a chronic, total emptiness. He was left imagining he made it all up, or a brain so preserved in a suspension of belief, so inebriated in a puddle of intentional barricades, had, for lack of real, lived, witnessed, convicted experience, become the generator of so many fictions. But when the dust of dereliction cleared and the vaporous clouds of boozy exhalations and drowsy expectations withered, it came clear. He hadn't imagined it, and as those who lied to conceal the truths lay exposed, he found them blameless and pitiable, and he left them behind. And he didn't imagine it. Thank you.
And now we have a piece by Nancy Bassett. I'm still here. I've been working with Nancy for a long time. We go back a long time. Love her.
Hi, everyone. And I just want to mention that Bess is doing a Writers for Recovery group at the Kingdom Recovery Center starting tomorrow at 4 o'clock. So if you're from our area, please come to the Kingdom Recovery Center. This prompt, as Bess said, was, I'm still here. Good times and bad times, I've seen them all. Did some shit and got caught, and watched while the headlines did the rest. Yeah, that was me. I did it all, but I'm still here. Then I changed. I found recovery, and I'm still here. So I did some good, and people took note, and watched while the headlines did the rest. So good times and bad times, I've seen them all, but I'm still here, doing my best.
It blows me away every single time that somebody could write in 7 minutes what they do. It's you have to kind of believe that there's something inside of people just waiting to get out with the right prompt and the right facilitation. So thank you. We'll have two more sets here today, so look forward to that. All right, we'll finish this off, and then we'll have our next speaker.
Queued it up to approximately where it's from. Nothing's perfect.
When we chase it, we hold ourselves to an impossible standard. Why is it impossible? Because we're all flawed humans, every single one of us, no exceptions. And the day that I accepted that fact was a turning point for me. Opportunities opened up for me because I was no longer paralyzed by my fear of failing. What I realized is that perfectionism prevents me from being daring. I would never have run for office if I hadn't confronted my perfectionism. And yeah, I still get nervous and anxious when I push myself to do something new that really challenges me. But I don't let it stop me from trying. And I'll never forget how I felt in my very first national television interview. I didn't completely conquer my fear. I was still really nervous, but I learned to be with it. And each interview since then has been easier. We have to learn how to be with our fear so that it doesn't control us. And one of the tough things about perfectionism is that it's sneaky and it takes on many forms. It can be a self-oriented perfectionism when you have unrealistic expectations for yourself and you beat yourself up because you don't meet those expectations, because those expectations are absurd. Another one is an other-oriented kind of perfectionism, when you hold others around you to standards of perfection, and then you criticize them for not achieving those unrealistic expectations. And then, of course, we're all living with the socially prescribed perfectionism that's all around us, when we believe others are holding us to perfect standards, and we fear that we'll be criticized if we don't meet them. In my experience in visiting with Vermonters across our state is that these different forms of perfectionism are present in every community and in many organizations. And I want to ask you, why are we doing that to ourselves? Many of you know that one of my heroes is a woman named Dr. Brene Brown. She's a writer, she's a researcher, she teaches at the University of Houston, and she has studied and written extensively about perfectionism and how it's connected to shame. And she often says, when perfectionism is driving, shame is always riding shotgun. And her research has shown that we struggle with perfectionism when we're feeling vulnerable to shame. And she often refers to perfectionism as a 20-ton shield that we're wearing. She says, it's a way of thinking that says, if I look perfect, if I live perfect, if I work perfect, I can avoid or minimize criticism or blame or ridicule. And we often use this heavy shield as armor against getting hurt. But what it really does is it keeps us from having true connection, and it prevents us from taking risks or being creative. So if perfectionism is so hurtful to all of us, why do so many people cling to it? Even wearing it like a badge sometimes. You know, we see perfectionism glorified in our society, being overworked and stressed and having nasty self-criticism, right? They're often held up as somehow ideals that we should all strive for. And our harmful behavior is constantly reinforced by those around us. And of course, we lose perspective. So how do we shift our thinking away from unhealthy perfectionism and towards healthy striving? It starts with surrounding yourself with people who see the difference between the two and can remind you of that in very tender moments. So I wanted to give you a real world example. Early on in my first run for Congress, I had a less than stellar performance in one of my early debates. And I flubbed a couple answers, I made some rookie mistakes, which was not at all surprising because look, I'd never run for Congress before, right? So it was all brand new. But by the end of the debate, I had lost all perspective. And afterwards, you know, I sat on the stairs at my friend's house and I was literally crying in my hands. I felt so much shame because I wasn't perfect. And I was sure that my campaign was over. I was certain that I had ruined everything because of that one debate. My mistakes were enormous in my eyes, and I lost sight of all the good, solid parts of my performance. So luckily, I had someone there who could hear my anguish and honor my feelings, and then point out the reasons why my assessment was actually not complete. And once I stopped crying and beating myself up, she could draw the distinction for me that I can and strive for doing better each time, but not set unrealistic perfectionist goals for myself. And we all need those people around us to coach us through those really hard moments. So this morning, I want you to think about who's on your team, and are they sending you the right messages? In addition to having people around you to help you identify your perfectionist tendencies and help you reframe them, what else can you do? Well, don't glorify those traits in others. Help your friends and your family members to be more balanced. It starts by rejecting the idea that perfection is possible at all. It's not. Really, it's not. And don't let others tell you otherwise. If you're having a hard time accepting this basic truth, you gotta mix things up a bit. Try new things that you definitely won't be perfect at. Some years ago, I took up trumpet just for fun. I knew I'd never get really good at it, but it was just fun to try. And in Congress, I played on a bipartisan women's softball team. And I'll never be the best person on the team. But I love getting up and practicing with these women and having a good time together. These pursuits bring me joy and give me a break from a very challenging, demanding job. And it gives me a break away from social media and other things that drain my energy and I know make me more self-critical. So today, on Recovery Day, I want you to take a few minutes to examine if you're setting harsh, unrealistic expectations for yourself. Make sure you've got a supportive team around you who can help you with these struggles. And I want you to remember, when you're having a hard time, I'm down in Washington, D.C. doing the same self-work. I hope you have a really meaningful, wonderful day, and I want to thank you again for your deep courage and commitment.
So at this time, I'd like to call up Dr. Mark Levine, the Commissioner of the Vermont Department of Health. And Dr. Levine, I'm not sure that you really got to hear our words, but can we all give Dr. Levine a round of applause? Again, if you weren't here, Dr. Levine was the longest serving commissioner of the Vermont Department of Health in our history. Really amazing person. I don't know about you all, but COVID was like dog years, so I'm gonna count that as 28. But listen, you show up for us every year, every time, and the number of positions that you fill statutorily is beyond measure, and we're just really grateful for you and the work that you've done, and just thank you for being there for us.
Well, no pressure now. So thank you, Daniel. The staff of AMHAR, Gary, Susie, staff at Recovery Partners of Vermont. This is a really important day, and it takes a lot of people to organize it and do it well. Did you guys already congratulate Gary on his retirement? Yeah, okay, so I'll add to that. Because his advocacy for Vermont's substance use services and his leadership of Recovery Partners is inspiring to us all. And we look forward to whatever he does next. And we look forward to what Susie will do with the organization. It was great to see Bess and recovery writers and or Writers for Recovery. And that's now, how many years has that been an annual event? 10 years, incredible. Powerful, powerful work, much more powerful than anything some of us highfalutin speakers can say. I always get inspired when I come here. There's just such a wealth of lived experience and knowledge, and you heard about who's on your team. I mean, it's like a room of a team. It's a very big team. And whether a person is just considering recovery or currently in recovery or supporting a person in recovery in any way, it's really a great day just to acknowledge all the good people and the good work that happens here in Vermont. And a theme this day is recovery rooted in community connection, which really is a great chance to reflect on the deep roots that recovery has in Vermont. Two native Vermonters, as many of you know, Dr. Bob Smith, born in St. Johnsbury in 1879, and Bill Wilson, born in East Dorset, 1895, were the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. And in the years since their work began, we've seen remarkable scientific advances. Our understanding of and our approach to substance use disorder treatment and recovery has evolved in such incredibly profound ways. We now know the value of embracing what we in public health call a chronic care management model for substance use disorders. We know that having a rich network of recovery support services is really critical. Those cover the gamut: recovery coaching, recovery housing, recovery service organizations, all critical to meeting people where they are at that point in time that they're in their recovery journey. So over these past 8 years, I think I've spoken at either all or most of these recovery days and seen the evolution of recovery and seen it really become an established part of what we call the continuum from prevention to intervention to treatment to recovery. And I've also been able to really share in commemorating a number of important milestones that have occurred. There have been opening of new centers. There have been the whole training and certification process for coaches. There's been the graduation of the inaugural class of peer recovery coaches at the Recovery Coach Academy. There's been the maturation of the concept of recovery housing and its own certification status. And I'm probably leaving out a bunch of other things. But I'm quite proud of all these advances that Vermont has made in this landscape of recovery services. And just to highlight a couple of things. To all the recovery coaches that are here with us today, I owe a profound sense of gratitude to you all, as do so many Vermonters. The work you do is so important. It has evolved and expanded so rapidly since it was started literally in 2017. And at that point, we had recovery coaches in just 3 emergency departments across the state. So today, of course, all 14 emergency departments in Vermont have helped thousands of Vermonters. Recovery coaches are there 24/7. Pick up a phone, someone appears for someone in a hospital bed for a reason other than their substance use. Someone appears, obviously, at the recovery centers when somebody is in need, or just to continue supporting people that they are very familiar with. The amount of stigma that has been decreased through these kinds of processes, the kinds of vital connections to Vermonters that have been established, very, very impressive and profound. It's been great to participate in and see the actual creation, really under our eyes, of a profession, which of course, when I use the word profession, it doesn't mean just volunteerism. It actually means now having a salary, having an opportunity to take one's lived experience and support Vermonters, and of course, support oneself as well in their own recovery journey. I want to talk a little bit about improving access and coordination. We all talk all the time about the impressive work of many aspects of this in our state, thinking about the Tetros and Jenna's Promise in the Northeast Kingdom, thinking about Chad Vijay and the Recovery House's work to recently open 16 new clinically managed low-intensity beds at the McGee House to their growing campus. So the access to and the coordination of substance use services continues to get stronger every day. And in concert with the Agency of Human Services and the governor, our department, the Department of Health, has just presented proposals to the legislature for enhancing the transitions from residential treatment to recovery housing and ensuring that there are what we call stabilization beds for those who experience a recurrence of their substance use while in recovery or are just waiting to get into a recovery bed and need a necessary safety net. There's a few other things we're doing too, but I won't go into all those details. There are some recovery system enhancements as well. We're really seeking to standardize our recovery services and add certification processes to our recovery centers and peer recovery support specialists as a means to ensure high-quality services and to innovate how we pay for those services using our Medicaid waivers. As this work progresses, I'm heartened to see that our recovery services are becoming as resilient and innovative and inspiring and strong as the many, many Vermonters that are engaged in recovery. And we're now at the point where an individual new to recovery can have a stable living situation, be supported in their recovery, and seek employment opportunities to be able to pursue a productive and meaningful career and be able to be embarking on that journey of having a fulfilling life and sense of meaning free of substances once again. To be grounded in what SAMHSA calls its 4 dimensions of recovery: health, home, purpose, and community. Now, as you've heard, I'm going to be stepping down from my position probably late in March. A choice that did not come easily, as the work of public health is eternally gratifying, satisfying, meaningful, and really never ends, or gets easier. And there's never a good time to step away. By current standards, 8 years in this position is an eternity. I'm actually the second longest standing health commissioner in the 50 states right now. You might, well, that's through no resilience of myself. It's actually through having an incredible set of Vermonters through the pandemic and post-pandemic, and an incredible governor to work for. So many of my colleagues around the country had fingers pointed at them, had people camping on their lawns, had people with death threats, had people that didn't appreciate what they were doing, and it got very polarized and politicized, as we all know. So that the lifespan of a commissioner across the country was like a year and a half. So I'm proud I live in Vermont. In my next chapter, after some appropriate rest and relaxation, I hope I'll find some more opportunities to really further my commitment to better integrating health care and public health to achieve greater population health outcomes. But no matter what my next steps are, please know that my work with the Department of Health and all of the wonderful people that live in, work in, are part of recovery will always be a significant inspiration to me. And I want to thank you all for that and wish you all the best.
The choice of speakers today was no accident. Some of the folks that we chose are people who are on the front lines, who help determine our policy, our funding, how we are going to systemically tackle these issues, and in many cases are protecting the rights of Vermonters in the world in which we live. The next one is no exception. She is on the front lines of battling for our rights and other opportunities, as well as holding the pharmaceutical companies to account and bringing money into the state to help to undo and mitigate and deal with some of the damage that's been done historically. Without further ado, the Attorney General of Vermont, Charity Clark.
It's so nice to be here among friends where I can wear my snow boots and no one will judge that I'm not that I'm not wearing heels. When I was first running for office, it was 2022, the summer. I didn't know that I would be running for office until the last minute. And so I sort of jumped in and thought, what's this going to be like? One of the, I guess it's not a surprise, it shouldn't have been a surprise, but it was. Every single day I was traveling around the state trying to introduce myself to voters, tell them who I was, help them remember my name so that when they saw it on the ballot, they would vote for me. And in my travels, every day, I met someone who had a loved one die of opioid use disorder every single day. And I had to train myself to not mess up my makeup and cry too much. And sometimes I would run into people I already knew and learn that someone close to them had died. It was heart-wrenching. And I think anyone who has had the experience of meeting new people in Vermont every day is going to also have that experience that I had. It helped reaffirm for me the importance of all of us working together to address this, of thinking creatively. And lucky me, I won my race. I got to be Attorney General, and my office has several lanes that we travel in when we do this work. One was mentioned, we fight the many industries who failed us and helped create or helped continue the opioid crisis. We have settled tens of millions of dollars worth of cases at this point. I'm proud to have been a part of that, both when I was working as a chief of staff at the office and now as Attorney General. These companies failed us, and these organizations failed us, and it is critical that we resolve those cases and let the legislature and make decisions about how to invest that money in ways that can help all of you and all of the many people impacted. I also want to note that my office has we are the organization that provides the umbrella for lots of restorative justice work in this state. I'm incredibly proud of the work that we do in collaboration with the community justice centers throughout Vermont. A lot of the work that we do relates to substance use disorder and providing supports, treatment, redirecting people from the traditional criminal justice system to a restorative justice system where the many challenges that they face can be addressed in a compassionate and effective way of getting them treatment to help them in recovery and help them get on a better path. I also want to flag a famous Vermonter who grew up 5 miles from me. I am speaking, of course, of famous Vermonter Bill W. And seeing us all here doing this work, it's Recovery Day, I am reminded of Bill W. and how he and Dr. Bob founded AA by committing to helping other people who struggled with addiction. And that is the foundation of the 12-step program that so many other, not just alcoholism, but so many other areas of challenge have used, the 12-step program. It was literally founded on helping others. I bet probably many of you know the story, but I always find this story so moving. I'm gonna tell it again. Bill W. was struggling, and he was in a bar in the hotel in, I think, Ohio, and he went to the phone booth, because it was so long ago there was a phone booth, and he grabbed the phone book, which of course was in the phone booth, and he looked for people of faith to help him, because his instinct was telling him, if I can find another person who struggles with alcohol to help, I think I can stay sober too. And he found someone who gave him Dr. Bob's number, and he called Dr. Bob. And that was the foundation of AA. I mean, Bill W. is a Vermonter and doesn't get celebrated enough. I have been to the Wilson House in Dorset. It's a wonderful place. I've met wonderful people there. And so on this Recovery Day, I want to shout out to one of, a Vermont hero, Bill W. And we should be singing his praises more. I'm glad to be able to say his name today. Part of the work that I did at the Attorney General's office before I became AG and have proudly continued as AG is our expungement and sealing clinics. Those are clinics that we take around the state. We partner with the local state's attorney, and we seal and expunge people's records. We get them to help them get the paperwork ready so they can submit that stuff in court. We try to have one every other month. And in that process, normally I'm not helping direct Vermonters, I'm lawyering. That was my experience. I'm managing, I'm lawyering, I'm not working directly with Vermonters. To have the opportunity to work directly with Vermonters, many of whom had experienced substance use disorder, and that was how they found themselves interfacing with the criminal justice system. It was incredibly powerful and extremely inspiring and motivating. Because it's literally at this point probably hundreds of people that I personally have helped work through that process, and hearing their stories and how they, are in their recovery journey at a moment where they're ready to get that record expunged or sealed, which means time has passed. They've not interfaced with the criminal justice system in many years. And it is incredibly inspiring and insightful for me. It has really shaped how I have viewed the criminal justice system and people in Vermont. One thing that I also found is, I was lucky enough to listen to Congresswoman Ballant's speech to you, which was so wonderful. But I encountered many people that I know who I didn't know suffered from some substance use disorder, who had a DUI in their record, and I didn't know until they came to me and said, can you help me seal or expunge my record? That has also helped, and as that, one person will come up to me and I'll say, I know right now I can sense you're feeling some shame, and I don't want you to feel ashamed because you don't know how often this happens to me, where someone I know has now revealed something that they feel ashamed about, and it's just like, that was in the past, you are this new person now, and that is a theme I hear. I don't even know who that person was who did this, and it's a wonderful thing. We're working across the street with the legislature on expanding the sealing law so that more crimes can be sealed. And we've been working on that for a number of years, but I'm very hopeful that this will be our year that we'll be able to expand that and help even more people who have crimes, especially drug-related crimes, on their record. So I know we're now very behind time, so I'm not going to go on and on, but just to say thank you all for your work. Thank you for hosting this today. This has been wonderful, and when I saw the lineup of the speakers, what a treat. I'm sorry I can't stay for the whole program because it looks wonderful. And I just want to, say again how surprising it was when I was running in 2022 to encounter so many people who had lost someone. And now it doesn't surprise me, and I think it's made me wiser, and all of you have helped educate me so that I can do my job in a better, more compassionate, more aware way, and try to commit to making change here in Vermont so that we can make Vermont better and we can protect Vermonters and make a better Vermont. Thank you.
And now please welcome the Lieutenant Governor of Vermont, John Rogers.
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you all for having me. It's funny, when I come to these events, they thank me for coming, and I thank them for having me. I am very honored to be here, and I just want to give a shout out to every single person who is in recovery, whether it's the first day or it's been 10 years. I'm proud of you. We're proud of you. We need you to stay sober and be members of society. In one of the old sayings, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a community to support people, whether they're children or they're in recovery. And that's the great thing about some of the programs we have on the ground now is reintegrating people into the community. We know that there is still stigma attached, and we need more people to get over that. But I love to see these programs that are teaching job skills and reintegrate people into community, because the community support is so important. One thing that I would like to talk about a little bit are the trades. And I know there's a lot of folks in recovery that may not have a career path. They may not have a job that pays great. And I'm the average age of a tradesman now. I'm 59, and I'm worried that when my generation retires, you're not going to be able to get your car fixed or your roof fixed or your plumbing fixed or any of those things. And I just want to put it out there to the folks that are in recovery and the people who provide the services that there are some great opportunities in the trades for people. One of the things I love about the trades is I do stonework and excavation, and that is the joy of being able to stand back at the end of the day and see what I've done, improving people's homes and yards, and it's something that's going to be there for generations. And to have pride in your work is so important for your self-worth. And so there are a lot of programs out there for adult learning. There are a lot of businesses that will take on apprentice, and I think those are great job opportunities. I'm going to get my phone out here because I'm going to share a saying that my son has on the back of a sweatshirt. We had a very close friend that went away to the military and came back with scars he could not heal from, and he turned to self-medicating with alcohol and eventually took his own life, and our family will never be the same. And my boy has a sweatshirt that says, "Be kind. Everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about." And so that is a motto that I try to live by, being kind to everyone. We all have our issues, and something that Congresswoman Balint said reminded me of an old saying: don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. We all are doing the best we can. We all need support. Don't be afraid to lean on those. There's a lot of people around that love you and will support you every step of the way. And don't be afraid to lean on them. My office is open to everyone, to every Vermonter. I've had some great conversations with the recovery community, and actually I'm working on a couple pieces of legislation on their behalf. One of the things that we really need, and it kind of goes back to the trades, we need more housing in the state. We need more tradespeople to build that housing. Because it does little good to put somebody through recovery and then put them back out on the street with no housing and no support. So that is one of the big focuses, is to make sure that everybody has adequate housing, because you can't rebuild your life if you don't have a roof over your head that you can afford. I thank you. I love the idea of how well the administration is working with all the providers, and we really need those partnerships. It is so important to have the support of the administration. We have so many great programs out there. We need to continue to build more, because we still have some areas of the state that are underserved. But when I look at these issues, I think about housing, and I think about how do we slow down, or wouldn't it be wonderful if we could stop the illegal trafficking of these drugs that are harming so many Vermonters. And right now, Vermont is seen as an easy place to do business because of our laws, and we've got to change some of those. What a lot of them are doing now is they're using 16 and 17-year-olds to transport drugs into the state. Those folks need to be held accountable. And if they need services and can help us find whoever is above them, sending them, then great. You know, we work with them, we put them on the right path because they probably didn't choose this as their career path. They get trapped into it. But we have to slow down the new addictions that are being caused by the ease of acquiring these harmful drugs in Vermont. It's also driving violence, break-ins, and all those other things. So we have a lot of work to do here in the state, but I'm so proud of how far that we've come, and I'm proud of every one of you that is in recovery today. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
And now, finally, thank you so much for your patience. We are a little behind, but we're going to make up some time. But please welcome our Chief Prevention Officer to read today's Recovery Day proclamation and some remarks from the governor. Just to tell you a little something about Monica and the quality of the person she is. I remember the day that she was appointed, my phone was blowing up with texts from across the aisle saying this is one of the greatest appointments that has ever happened. Monica is universally respected. We are so thankful to you.
He's just being nice because he made me wait. On behalf of Governor Scott, I want to welcome you all to Recovery Day. And on behalf of myself, I got to tell you, I love this day. I really do. I feel like this is the thing that drives all of us and gives us the energy that we need to keep doing the work. You know, when I was thinking about this morning, two words kept resonating in my head. And I don't really know why, except that as I thought about it, it made more sense to me. The two words are hope and intent. And when I think about recovery, I think about those two words together, hope and intent. And that's what I think. I think it's the most powerful kind of combination of words and the most powerful kind of force in the world when you bring hope and intent together. And that's what I see every time I'm in a room full of folks who are in recovery, when I visit the recovery centers, when I'm talking to people. It's that idea of hope and intent coming together. When hope and intent come together, they create action. And Dr. Levine referenced it a little bit, but what you will see if you look in the governor's budget for FY26, there are very few new initiatives, but where there is new money proposed is in filling some of the gaps in our substance use treatment and in creating more recovery options for Vermont. And that is a big deal. Thank you. That budget has a long way to go, but I know with the help of our legislative colleagues that we'll be able to get that passed, and we will bring some new options online for Vermont, because this administration remains committed to treatment, intervention, prevention, and specifically to recovery. The other thing that we know about recovery and substance use disorder and the work that we're all doing is that words matter. Words like community and connection, words like recovery being not only possible but probable. So I invite you for just a few minutes to listen to some words from Governor Scott as he declares today, February 19th, Recovery Day in the state of Vermont. It's wonky language, you all know that. There's a lot of whereases, but please do take a minute and listen to the words because they are so powerful. Whereas alcohol and substance use disorder, mental health needs, and co-occurring conditions affect millions of individuals, as well as their families, friends, and communities. And whereas Vermont has made meaningful progress in reducing fatal opioid overdose through the combined efforts of dedicated nonprofits, state agencies, healthcare providers, and community leaders whose innovative partnerships have strengthened prevention, harm reduction, treatment and recovery systems statewide. And whereas Vermont continues to experience public health and public safety concerns from evolving drug supplies, domestic and sexual violence, housing insecurity, poverty, and adverse outcomes related to alcohol and other substance use disorders. And whereas people living with these conditions deserve multifaceted support and hope, including a community that supports them, their families, and their unique path of recovery. And whereas Vermont recovery centers, recovery residences, and peer services such as recovery coaching, and all their staff provide judgment-free, compassionate, evidence-based, and life-saving support in Vermont, and whereas the health and well-being and quality of life of some Vermonters are impacted by chronic yet treatable health conditions, which can be exacerbated by inequitable access to safe, affordable housing, healthy food, transportation, childcare, and other social determinants of health. And whereas Vermont's Recovery Day is designated to remind all Vermonters that alcohol and substance use disorders and co-occurring conditions respond well to evidence-based and timely interventions, including the support from peers who have had their own unique recovery experiences to lean on, I, Philip B. Scott, Governor, hereby proclaim the 19th day of February 2025 as Recovery Day in Vermont. Congratulations to all of you, and thank you.
All right, one more swappity-doo here. We're welcoming to speak on behalf of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Joe Krawinski, Representative Lori Houghton.
Good morning. I think it's still morning. Good morning, everyone. Lori Houghton. I'm former chair of the House Health Care Committee and current House Majority Leader. And it's an honor to be here with you today on behalf of Speaker Krawinski. She wishes she could be here in person to celebrate the strength of this incredible community. It's so exciting to see so many people here. Thank you to all of the amazing individuals and organizations who have worked so hard to bring us together today. A special thank you to those who will and have already bravely shared their stories of recovery, reminding us why this work matters. And of course, thank you to the community leaders, service providers, and advocates who fight to ensure that recovery is possible for all Vermonters. The impact of substance use disorder on our families, friends, and communities can be seen across the state and the country. We cannot take away the pain and loss that so many Vermont families and communities have experienced, but we have a responsibility, not just as legislators, but as people, to do better, to show up, and to ensure that no one feels like they have to fight this battle alone. Every day, Vermonters in recovery show us what it means to persevere. People in recovery deserve real opportunities to heal, to rebuild their lives, and to thrive. That's why we must continue the work of building a comprehensive support system that includes prevention, harm reduction, treatment, and long-term recovery services. Substance use disorder does not pick and choose its victims. It impacts Vermonters in every corner of the state. Our solutions must be just as complete and thoughtful. We all have a part to play. Recovery rooted in community connection speaks to something we all know to be true. Recovery does not happen in isolation. In the legislature, we recognize that recovery isn't just a personal journey, it's a public responsibility. That means making sure that no Vermonter is left behind. We have taken important steps over the years, but we know that the work is far from over. Today is about more than just reflection. It's about action. Your stories shape policy, your advocacy drives progress, and your resilience reminds us why this work is so essential. Together, we can build a Vermont that truly embraces and supports every person on the recovery journey. On behalf of Speaker Krawinski and the entire House, I want to thank you for everything you do today and every day. We see you, we stand with you, and we are committed to working alongside you. Thank you.
All right, now we get to do something really fun. So at this time, I'd like to welcome Eva Zaret and Dr. Javed Mashkuri and Kim Adams, Dr. Kim Adams, and Charlie, if Charlie's here.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Happy Recovery Day. To be clear, when we talk about recovery in the circles we run in, any positive change is recovery. Sometimes you go forward, sometimes you maybe take a step back, but you always try to move forward a little bit. Gary, my prompt for writing is, how do I describe what Mark Dettman means to recovery in Central Vermont? It's not an easy thing. And unfortunately, most of the people that have preceded me speaking have said everything I was going to say. So I have a little paragraph, and then I ripped up the rest of the stuff I was going to say, and I'm just going to wing it from some notes about Mark from people I talked to this week. We're here today to honor Mark Dettman with an award that actually bears his name and recognizes his incredible contributions to creating a system of care for people that use drugs. The award will ensure Mark's legacy lives on because it's going to be given every year here by VAMHAR, so thank you for that. Mark's brilliant work over at least a decade now has brought millions of dollars to Central Vermont. It's developed a recovery system of care as well as increased the capacity and reach of a local prevention coalition. Mark's work has touched the lives of countless Vermonters, and in doing so has improved the health of our community. There is no question that this year's award would go to no one other than Mark himself. Now I go off script. I've worked with Mark for 13 years, as many other of our colleagues and people here have. Mark was a brilliant clinician, an inspiring leader, and an incredible mentor, and most importantly, was a great friend. So when I look back on this, I realized that, Mark's goal in creating a system of care for people that use drugs, he neatly put it, he said, what we're trying to do is create an environment for successful recovery. That involved low barrier access to care, innovative strategies, and getting things right and improving them. Mark had an intolerance for injustice. He started his career in New York City. You might not know this. It was right when the AIDS epidemic started. Mark saw firsthand what stigma and marginalization of a population of patients who then had health inequity and what happened to them. It led to no treatment. It led to death. It prepared him well to tackle substance use disorders and the stigma and health inequity around them. Mark's main tenet and belief of treating this disease was calling it a disease, like many people have said today. He gave it an equity of any other chronic disease. He said, this is no different than diabetes, congestive heart failure, or COPD. Somebody comes in with an elevated blood sugar, we give them fluids. We give them insulin. We give them dietary counseling. Someone comes in struggling from a substance, we give them a tongue lashing maybe, give them a list of resources that are no longer even up to date or in place. We don't tell Mrs. Jones that she's weak in character and a moral failure for not taking her insulin or eating a lot of chocolate cake. We don't do that. So he's like, get out of your own way, let's make this a disease and let's treat it right. And that was the guiding force that it really was freeing for all of us to say, yeah, there's too much baggage around this. We just got to do our work. And that's what we did. And the important part about that was people with chronic disease have problems. They have acute exacerbations. People in recovery return to use. Relapse is part of a chronic disease, any chronic disease. Anyway, the next quote I had from somebody was, I can't believe you guys are going to try to help me. This was a patient that came to the emergency department once, and I don't know if it was for alcohol use disorder, opioid withdrawal, but the patient received help, received medication, received coaching. Because Mark realized that the emergency department was an incredibly powerful place to forge a bond, a therapeutic bond with people that had been ignored and marginalized for so long by people like us. This person was just in shock that we would do something. But Mark also knew that the emergency department was not the center of the universe. I mean, we think it is, but it's not. And that we needed help. So we had recovery coaches. If you went to any emergency department before 2017, you would not find a person with lived experience who was trained, who was available 24/7 to make you feel better, to make you feel reassured, to teach you all the nooks and crannies of what is possible for recovery in your community. We have that. That is probably the greatest game changer we have had in recovery since I've been doing this. It's incredible. Anyone here who's a peer, please stand up. Thank you. These are the folks that do it every day. And my next bullet point was, quote, is anyone called a recovery coach? So when we first talked about recovery coaches community, people were like, whoa, whoa, what are we doing? That coaches, people that use drugs or did, or that can't be. And then we had to convince HR. Hey, we got to sign these guys up. They're like, but look at this. And I'm like, but that's the strength of their experience. That's the secret sauce. So we've had coaches with us for whatever seems like forever now, which is the right thing to say. And they do provide not only reassurance, comfort, we rely on them. First thing now when we need help is like, has anyone called a recovery coach? Where are they? Hurry. And you know, more importantly or equally as important is coaches also represent a model of recovery of what it could look like to patients. They go, look, I've been where you've been. You can get through this, and here's how and why. If you want to. If you don't want to, come back another day. Come to the recovery center. We'll talk about it. You don't have to do this today. But it also served as a reminder for everybody that worked in our department or other departments of what recovery looks like. This person that we probably didn't treat very well at some point in time is now our colleague. You know, elbow to elbow, here we go. We're going to make this happen. I cannot tell you the power of that in an eloquent way. The next quote was, we need more doors. Mark had a saying, any door is the right door. So he knew not only that you had to have people with lived experience, but we had to have people start treatment with us, to talk to a coach. They had to have some place to go. So what do? You call someone like Bob Purvis or Tony Folan and say, who are these people out there? We should know this. This is embarrassing. We've been here forever. We don't know what CivSAS stands for and CVAM and TPCCV. So we learned that whole alphabet. But not only do we learn it, we met with them. And we're like, wow, this is cool. We know each other now. What else can we do? So, you know, the secret is, or the truth is, the majority of recovery occurs outside the walls of a hospital, right? This is not lost on you. You guys do this. You're like, those guys in the hospital have no idea what's going on out here. But we're trying. So we felt that if we could meet and build trust with our partners in the community, we could really be a force for good. So the next quote is, free lunch and a coalition is born. We started hosting a monthly lunch of this ridiculously named group that we named called the Washington County Substance Abuse Regional Partnership. WICSARP. Is there a worse name than that? And we've done this for almost a decade now. We meet the third Tuesday of every month, and we have lunch. And we've tried to really become more inclusive of people in the community, business owners, people from other organizations, not necessarily just around substance use, to develop a community voice, a vision of how we can do more good together. So Mark created this. It was his vision. He made it happen. And he said, you know, sometimes we'd get funding, sometimes we wouldn't. You know, he literally brought millions of dollars to Tetra Up. But sometimes when we didn't get a grant, he said, you know what? He said, we have to do this. It doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. And not only do we have to do it, but we have to do it better. He was like a perfectionist to like the nth degree. Sometimes annoyingly so, but it was important. And, you know, in ending this rambling nonsense, I have to tell you that, you know, to have a body of work and ideas and innovation like that, it does require a trailblazer. And that's what this award is called. And initially I thought Mark wouldn't like the word trailblazer. because Mark had this thing about using big words that he knew we didn't know, and then we'd kind of feel silly. So, but then I said, well, no way. If Amhart called this a trailblazer, there had to be a good reason. So I, did my diligence and got on Google, and I found that, trailblazers, and you guys know this, are innovative, they're adventurous, they have a strong sense of curiosity, they're driven to create new paths and ideas. Sound familiar? They have a willingness to take risks, desire to challenge the status quo. And that's what this man did, right? We were not a profession that proudly took care of people that took drugs. And that was unacceptable and unjust to Mark. And he figured out how we could do that. Eva Zurett is our coordinator that Mark hired 4 years ago, four, with a grant that he wrote to develop this community coalition that's now called, not WICSAR, that name was nuts. It's called the Central Vermont Prevention Coalition. And Eva has been instrumental in building our presence, focusing us on being proactive versus reactive, and she will in fact become the coalition's first executive director in the near future. So she's going to present the award to Dr. Kim Adams, Mark's wife, and his son Charlie, who are here with us today. We couldn't be prouder or happier.
Thank you, Javed, and thank you for all that you have done. And without further ado, as Javed said, we are honored, so honored to present the inaugural Dr. Mark Dettman Trailblazer Award to none other than its namesake, Mark, and his wife, Kim, and son, Charlie, will accept it on his behalf.
Yeah, thanks so much, Eva and Javed. We're honored to accept this award on Mark's behalf, and we're so proud of all the pioneering work that he did in this recovery community and in the ER and the impact he had on so many Vermonters' lives. We know how important this work was to him, how treating everyone, especially those in the grips of a disease like addiction, with non-judgment, care, humanity, and respect was so integral to his being. And we're grateful for all the friendship and support Mark got from all of you who knew him and worked with him. With special thanks to his colleagues at CVMC, where he worked for over a decade and a half. Thank you for recognizing Mark's contributions with this Trailblazer Award.
Thank you all, and keep up the great work. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And I'll just be brief and say that there are a lot of heroes in this room. I really believe that. That amazing people doing amazing work, and there are a lot of people out there, doctors and others, doing really trailblazing work. And I just don't want to let Dr. Meshkari out of this room without saying that he's one of those heroes and is, deserves an award in his name, but maybe we'll bring him back another year for that. But what has become possible wouldn't have been possible if it weren't for you. And just like Bob, the sharing of your knowledge and your wisdom and being willing to advocate with other doctors. I remember when we were bringing the ED program to Copley Hospital, nobody wanted to get X-waivered to prescribe and do certain things, and you said, you know what, you guys are going to do this. The period. And within 1 month, everybody was. And so thank you. All right, so next we have the second set of Writers for Recovery.
Alrighty, Connie, come on up. Also, there are free Writers for Recovery books up there if you want to take one home and read some when you're sitting on the toilet or trying to go to bed. They're free. Connie. Oh, I've got it for you. Here it is. Okay. So I've been working with Connie up in the Northeast Kingdom. We have a great Writers for Recovery workshop up there, and she's awesome.
What I left behind. Well, left behind, gee, so many thoughts. Sometimes it takes the wind out of my sail. When I been, what I've been, what I could be. Sometimes then I come to a time I left myself. What I left is my family. When I was out there, I felt a need I could not get. Behind is the wind that took what I felt.
Yay! Matt? He's back.
I felt so many emotions today, I'm going to write for a year. This is called The Fabric Brought Back Memories. It was that red and black flannel coat he wore, no fashion statement, just warmth. It was the uniform of every daily chore, the garden variety wool, a nylon liner, no more. It was that old coat, a little worn but never rent, grimy round the collar. It was his old coat, carrying his particular scent. It was as if he still wore it, even after he went. Thank you.
And I'm going to read a piece written by Adam Hale, who I've known a long time, and unfortunately he passed this past year, but he came to a lot of Writers for Recovery, and he was a wonderful person. He was also a songwriter. This is called Rock Bottom Blues. Lord knows at least I was there, and yet I'm still here. Sometimes you're the headlights, and sometimes you're the deer. Don't know where I'm going, only know where I've been in too much trouble ever since I was 10. I struggle with failure, not fortune or fame. Each day I grow stronger, not living in pain. I've been to rock bottom, but now I'm on top, because that's how it is, not living life by the drop. I found out my trouble is that I was living in fear. The past is just a reminder that things will be different this year. The way I was living was trouble, no doubt. I didn't know how to stay clean or just go without. I struggle with failure, not fortune or fame. Each day I grow stronger, not living in pain. I've been to rock bottom, but now I'm on top, because that's how it is, not living by the drop. The pain would not subside. I felt all alone, didn't know how to reach out or pick up the phone. This time it's different. I no longer have fear. It's all behind me, and yet I'm still here. I struggle with failure, not fortune or fame. Each day I grow stronger, not living in pain. I've been to rock bottom, and now I'm on top, because that's how it is, not living life by the drop. Thank you.
I'd like to welcome Susie Walker to present the next award.
Thank you, Daniel, and hello again, everyone. It is a true pleasure to be able to present the Jack Berry Award. today to somebody I've known for a while and his colleague who I hope to know better. So I'll start by saying that back during the shutdown and everything, I needed a distraction, and I started listening to podcasts. At first, they were just diverting and distracting, and along the way, I found podcasts that more nourished my spirit and intrigued my mind. So when recently I heard about a podcast called Unraveled, and I recognized the people associated with it who I'd been working with through my whole tenure at Turning Point of Windham County. Wonderful partners, innovative thinkers, compassionate service providers. And so then I listened to several episodes, and sorry, I've got some notes here. I'll try to shorten for time. But so when I first listened to it, I was so touched by the approach of using a professional and a person with lived experience, of the sense of inquiry and curiosity, that when we're curious, we're not judging and we don't have preconceived notions. So that just this idea that we're wondering and we're exploring and we're asking people impacted about what are their motivations, what are the barriers, what are the things that work for them. And so Kurt White from the Brattleboro Retreat and Mary Wilson, also of the Brattleboro Retreat, are partnering on this wonderful podcast. I'll just say a couple things about the podcast itself. Unraveling reached thousands of listeners across 25 countries in the first year. Unraveling has 18 episodes at this point, ranging from personal experiences of grief and loss to societal forces driving youth suicide, the role of humor and spontaneity in mental health, and the stigma surrounding family estrangement. So a broad array of topics, of areas that we see touching people's lives often. The podcast also tackles contemporary issues such as the aftermath of a contentious presidential election, emerging evidence about alcohol's negative health impacts, and the societal norms that change our drinking behaviors. Unraveling is making an impact in educational and healthcare settings, with an episode on gender-affirming care being used in a discussion session at Brattleboro Memorial Hospital. The podcast has also driven meaningful community engagement through its collaboration with the Brattleboro Literary Festival, featuring 2 authors who wrote about eating disorders in dedicated episodes. The honorees, as I mentioned, are Kurt White and Mary Wilson, both from the retreat. As I said, I've worked with them for years, and with Kurt, and so he's got a broad array of experiences as a teacher and a counselor and an administrator. And Mary Wilson is an Emmy Award-winning journalist who spent a decade as an anchor and reporter for various local TV stations. She's a communications and media relations manager at the Brattleboro Retreat, and a native of Putney, Vermont, and received her broadcast journalism degree from Syracuse University, near where I grew up, Orangeman, and worked as an on-air journalist at WUTR in Utica, New York. This award, when we started planning for this day, I immediately thought of Unraveled, because it is having such an impact on me and others. And so if you all would come up, are we doing that, Daniel? Do you have the awards? Okay. We're winging it a little, folks. Oh, of course.
Let's get in here.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everybody. It's a real honor to receive this. Thank you.
All right, well, I get to bring myself up. Okay, so it's really my honor to present the Legislative Champion Award, named after one of my mentors in the advocacy realm, Peter Mallory. It's the Peter Mallory Legislative Champion Award. And this year we get to present it to a person who has not only been integral in Vermont's recovery community for a very long time, but has brought Vermont national to advocate on the federal level and around this country. This year we are presenting the Legislative Champion Award to Patty McCarthy, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Faces and Voices of Recovery, a national recovery advocacy organization based in Washington, D.C. Prior to joining Faces and Voices, she was a senior associate for the Center for Social Innovation, C4, where she served as Deputy Director of SAMHSA's Brass Tacks Initiative. Ms. McCarthy served for a decade as the Director of Friends of Recovery Vermont, which was basically VAMHAR, which was one of the iterations of VAMHAR and eventually became known as Recovery Vermont, a statewide recovery community organization conducting training, advocacy, and public awareness activities. In addition to public policy and education, her work is focused on community mobilizing, peer-based recovery support services, and peer workforce development. Patty has been instrumental in the development of a national accreditation for recovery community organizations, or RCOs, and in the development of peer support standards nationwide. Ms. McCarthy holds a master's degree in community counseling and a bachelor's degree in business administration. She's been in long-term recovery from alcohol and drug addiction since 1989, and she lives not very far from here. So she's a really remarkable person. She's on a well-deserved vacation, but we do have a video for her, and we'll play that.
Hello, recovery advocates. Thank you so much for this incredible honor. I am deeply humbled to receive this Legislative Champion Award on Recovery Day in Vermont. This recognition means a great deal to me, not just personally, but it also highlights the critical importance of recovery advocacy. First and foremost, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to the organizers of this event and to everyone who has supported me in my journey throughout my career. Your belief in my work and your unwavering commitment to these causes have been a constant source of inspiration to me. When I began my work in recovery advocacy, I was driven not only by my own recovery, but by the simple and profound belief that every individual deserves the opportunity to heal, to recover, and to thrive. This belief has guided my efforts in Vermont and nationwide. Now, as I lead Faces and Voices of Recovery out of Washington, D.C., it is so incredibly rewarding to see the positive impact we have made together. Addiction and mental health challenges do not discriminate. They affect people from all walks of life. And the stigma that surrounds these issues is often preventing people from getting the help that they need. So it's our collective responsibility to break down these barriers, to provide support and resources, and to create a society where everyone feels valued and welcomed and understood, and to ensure that the voices of people with lived experience are included in all policy discussions. I'm proud of the progress we've made, but I'm also acutely aware that there is so much more work to be done. We must continue to advocate for policies that prioritize mental health and addiction recovery, to invest in programs that provide recovery support services like peer recovery support, recovery community centers, and to ensure that no one is left behind. This award is not just a recognition of my efforts, it's a testament to the dedication and hard work of countless individuals who have joined me in this mission. I was incredibly fortunate to have started my advocacy career as the Director of Friends of Recovery Vermont under the mentorship of Ken Libertov in 2003. Ken truly was my inspiration. and an incredible role model who taught me how to navigate politics. He taught me about legislative advocacy and so much more. What I learned here in Vermont has helped inspire my advocacy on the national stage for the past 10 years, talking with policymakers from the White House to members of Congress and federal agencies. So to my colleagues and my partners and friends in the Vermont Addiction Recovery Movement, thank you for your tireless efforts and for standing with me every step of the way. To those who are currently struggling with addiction and mental health issues, please know you are not alone. There is hope, there is help, and there is a recovery community ready to support you. Your journey of recovery is a testament to your strength and resilience, and we're here to walk alongside you. So as we move forward, let us amplify the voices of those who have been silenced, to champion the rights of those who have been marginalized, and to build a future where everyone has the opportunity to live healthy, fulfilling lives. So thank you once again for this incredible honor. I wish you the very best on Recovery Day, and I'm truly grateful, and I look forward to continuing our important work together. Thank you.
So in the interest of time, I'm going to just say that you all are welcome to help yourself to coffee, to photos, to other things that are around, to go to the bathroom, whatever you need to do. But we're going to take the break and just keep rolling so that we can go forward. But please do what you need to do to take care of yourselves, stand up, whatever helps for you. So at this time, we're going to have our third Writers for Recovery reading.
Hi again. One of, I feel the most important things we do is work within the correctional system. I've been going into prisons for 10 years now, and the corrections department has been a stalwart partner. In fact, they've been our main funder for many years, and without them, Writers for Recovery would not be possible. I wanted to share a piece from someone who is currently incarcerated, and it's called I Am From. I am from pain, I am from loss, but it created relief, it created strength, albeit going back and forth, like yin to my yang, like night and day. I hate reliving and bathing in the pain, but seem to love it all the same. Why would I continue to allow myself to live in a world full of pain and loss? Why do I feel comfort in a place that offers none of it? It's a trap that continues to lure me in. The strength my pain and loss has created is immense, but still not strong enough to keep me from walking back to the other side. One day I will become strong enough to challenge my pain and loss head on and not falter. Relief will come and flood me with strength. I want it so bad I can taste it. Yet I know deep down today is not that day. I need to grow. I need to forget, to forgive. I need myself to want to live again. I will live again. And I just want to thank all of you for being ready when that person who's not quite ready becomes ready, because it's so important for us to be there again and again. I'd like to introduce our next reader, and that's Connie Perry. As you know, she's awesome, and when I go to St. J, I love going up there just for fun, and I always hope I will see Connie, and sometimes I do, and that makes my day.
Here is what I will take. So much I need to do. Well, let me get started. I need to get my brain straight. Let's get it all set up. Just need to breathe. Damn it. Stay with it, whether I want to or not. Shit. Hate being sick. Need my family in my life. So come on, that's right, you. I know I can do it. Put the booze down. Start living again. Damn it, all around me. damn, it's all around me. Like a roller coaster ride, just do the best you can.
And for the final reading, we're going to bring Nancy up again. You know, if you're up in the Northeast Kingdom, you just know her, and she is always there, and she's such a positive force for people in recovery.
A little over 20 years ago, the Kingdom Recovery Center, located in the birthplace and childhood home of Dr. Bob, opened its doors. And I was hired along with Margaret Major Drew. We lost Margaret last September. I'm going to read something that she wrote at the Writers for Recovery group in 2017. The prompt was, hell yeah. And this is Margaret. This is truly Margaret. Hell yeah was the way I lived my life. Did I want a beer? Hell yeah. Did I want to kick the shit out of someone for a 12-pack? Hell yeah. Did I think I was too cool to follow the rules? Hell yeah. Did I think he loved me when he beat the shit out of me? Hell yeah. Did I see me becoming a mother, something I would be wonderful at? Hell yeah. Was I sadly mistaken? Hell yeah. Did I judge the dopers? Hell yeah. Was I better than them, so I thought? Hell yeah. Did I end up lower than low? Hell yeah. Did I always settle for less? Hell yeah. Did recovery change everything in my life? Hell yeah.
So we are going to welcome up at this time Kristen Chandler from the Crisis Intervention Team.
Good morning. I am Kristen Chandler. I'm here representing the steering committee for the Crisis Intervention Team of Washington County. Crisis Intervention Team training is something that would never have happened here without Dr. Mark Detman's help. And you've already heard everything about him from Javed and Eva, so I'm not going to belabor that. But the Crisis Intervention Team is training is a 40-hour training for first responders in learning how to respond with care and compassion, to use resources in the community to people who are vulnerable, whether it be from a substance use issue or mental health issues. And about 4 years ago, former Montpelier Police Chief Brian Peet got a bunch of us together to try to come up with a way that we could put on a 40-hour training in Washington County for first responders. And we met for about 2 years, I'm not kidding, like twice a month for 2 years, and Mark Detman was the co-chair of that committee with me. And we created a curriculum and we created a way to enable rural Washington County police departments and fire departments and dispatchers and mental health crisis clinicians and recovery coaches to come together for 40 hours for an in-person training where they would learn about the resources available in this county. They would have to run through several scenarios where we brought in professional actors to act them out and to give them those resources and to learn about why it's so imperative that we all work together. The irony today is that several of this award recipients, fellow colleagues at Montpelier Police Department, wanted to be here today to see him receive this award. And when they arrived in uniform, they were questioned about why they were here. And they were asked if they were in the wrong place. The message is, first responders, including police officers, play a critical role in recovery. In fact, Turning Point Center has somebody who is embedded with Barry and Montpelier Police who walks a beat with police officers to help people in recovery. This work is incredibly important. And I can tell you it never would have happened without Mark Detman's drive, his curmudgeon-y self, pushing us to make sure it would happen. He wanted to make sure that first responders, including police officers, had the tools and the education and the knowledge to be able to provide compassionate care to people in recovery. And so in the last 2 years, we've been able to put on 4 crisis intervention trainings. We've put through, 41 people have gone through this program. And when I learned of Mark's passing last November, I knew we wanted to honor him. And we wanted to perpetuate his drive to make sure that the people in Washington County would be treated well by any first responder who was responding to their crisis. So we created an award and decided it would go to a graduate of the CIT program, somebody who was really espousing the tenets of what crisis intervention training is all about and what that team approach is all about. Shortly after we decided to create this award, this is the first one, but it will go on in perpetuity, I hope. Coincidentally, I saw a friend of mine, we actually were playing tennis together. She's a volunteer here in Montpelier at an emergency shelter, and she told me about an overnight shift she took where she needed to call Montpelier police to come and deal with a crisis that was happening at the shelter. And she told me about this officer who responded, and she was so impressed by his care and his compassion, she wrote a very long email to the chief of police, and she told me about it. And so it made a lot of sense to those of us on the steering committee to give the first annual Dr. Mark Detman CIT Award to Sergeant Ben Michaud of Montpelier PD.
Hi, everyone. I usually reserve my public speaking for when I'm on duty. Today's a day off, so bear with me while I fumble my way through this. I'm deeply honored and humbled to accept the first ever Dr. Mark Detman CIT Award. Dr. Detman was a true champion for compassionate response and care. His work as co-chair of the CIT Steering Committee was instrumental in getting this invaluable training off the ground here in Vermont. To receive this award in his name is a privilege beyond words. This recognition is not just about me, though. It's about the work that first responders do every single day. It is about the officers, EMTs, firefighters, dispatchers, and mental health professionals who show up time and time again to help individuals in their most vulnerable moments. Too often, their efforts go unseen, their compassion unheard, and their challenges misunderstood. But today, this award serves as a reminder. Our work matters. Every act of care, every de-escalation, every moment of empathy, it all makes a difference. As a law enforcement officer, I have dedicated my career to crisis intervention and negotiation. I have seen firsthand how the right words, the right approach, and most importantly, the right mindset can help change the course of a person's life. When someone is struggling with mental illness or substance misuse disorder, they don't need judgment, they don't need force, they need understanding. They need someone to see them as more than their crisis, to see them as a person. That is why I believe so strongly in the power of empathy to guide our work as first responders. It is not weakness to lead with compassion, it is strength. It takes courage to slow down, to listen, to seek solutions beyond arrest and incarceration. Crisis intervention is not just a technique, it is a mindset a commitment to treating every individual with dignity and respect. I want to thank my colleagues, my mentors, and my first responder family for their support and for believing in this mission with me. I want to thank those who have shared their stories, who have trusted me in their most difficult moments. You are the reason this work matters. And to everyone in this room, let us continue to push for change, to advocate for training, and to ensure that empathy remains at the heart of everything we do. Thank you for this incredible honor. I accept it not just for myself, but for every first responder who chooses compassion, who stand up for those in crisis, and who never stop believing in the power of care. Thank you.
And now to present our Lifetime Achievement Awards, I'd like to welcome Liza Ryan.
Hello, everyone. It's really nice to be here and be back here in person. I know this is a day that a lot of us have been looking forward to for a long while. And this year, we are incredibly grateful to recognize two Vermont physicians for the Lifetime Achievement Award. These physicians have had an immeasurable impact on advancing addiction treatment and recovery across the state of Vermont. The Lifetime Achievement Award is intended to honor an individual or individuals whose unwavering dedication, vision, and advocacy have profoundly advanced the landscape of addiction recovery in Vermont. This award recognizes an exceptional commitment to reducing stigma and building systems of care and support that empower individuals and communities. The recipients' enduring contributions exemplify the power of compassion and perseverance in building stronger communities and transforming lives. Our first award recipient is Dr. Rick Rawson. Dr. Rawson, born and raised in Vermont, has spent the past 50 years working in the field of addiction medicine. Dr. Rawson has contributed greatly to the development of addiction treatment in Vermont through his 2015 evaluation of the hub and spoke model and his consistent advocacy for the delivery of effective and evidence-based treatments for stimulant use disorder. Additionally, Dr. Rawson has led between 10 to 50 presentations annually for the past 3 decades, displaying a tireless commitment to education that has not only expanded understanding of addiction, but has been a cornerstone in reducing stigma surrounding substance use disorder. While in attendance at a conference this past summer, I sat in on a session for a contingency management program in California and had asked a question around the similarities to a program that had recently occurred in Vermont. It did not take long before Dr. Rawson's name came into connection with this topic, and when it did, the presenter, who I believe is a colleague of Dr. Rawson's at UCLA, paused to say, "Isn't he so great? He does such amazing work." And there proceeded to be many heads nodding in the audience. So with that, thank you, Dr. Rawson, for being so great and for your amazing work in this field. We are proud to present you with the 2025 Lifetime Achievement Award. Our second award recipient, sorry, did I cut you off here?
Well, I just wanted to say, you should know that the Vermont recovery movement is different than many of them I see around the country and around the world. When I moved back, I was at UCLA for 40 years. I moved back to Vermont in 2015, and I got a doctor's appointment in Brandon. I live down in Brandon. George Field is my doctor, and I was sitting in the waiting room, going to meet George, and I was talking to this young lady with a little kid sitting in the waiting room with me, and I said, "Do you here for child's wellness?" She goes, "No, I'm here for buprenorphine." And I thought, you're here for your buprenorphine dose. I'd never seen that anyplace else in the world, where people were able to go for their care for their substance use disorder in a regular medical setting, just like everybody else. It was really remarkable. And I ended up asking her a whole bunch of questions, and this was like the greatest thing ever for her. She was doing really well, and she still is doing well. I stayed in touch with her. But I just wanted to thank you for this. It's a great honor. It's an honor to be doing it with my co-recipient today, who I've worked with at UVM. And I wish Dr. Levine didn't leave, because Dr. Levine has been a great leader for the state of Vermont. I worked also with Harry Chen before him. And Vermont has really been blessed to have great leadership in this area. And you all have been the foundational people to do this work. And I just thank you and appreciate all of your contributions. Thank you.
And our second award recipient is Dr. Dan Wolfson. Dr. Wolfson has been at the University of Vermont Medical Center practicing as an emergency physician for over 22 years. Throughout his career, Dr. Wolfson has led many impactful programs that have advanced opportunities for Vermonters seeking access for substance use disorder. This includes leading the START Treatment and Recovery Program, commonly known as STAR, which is an emergency department program for initiating medications for opioid use disorder, and this has become a national model, which is an emergency department program that has become a national model in emergency medicine. Additionally, through his role as the EMS Medical Director of Vermont, Dr. Wolfson developed the Naloxone Leave Behind program that empowers EMS providers to distribute naloxone to any patient at risk of an opioid overdose, as well as the PREVENT program that enables EMS providers to initiate buprenorphine treatment for opioid use disorder in a pre-hospital setting, an intervention that is life-saving to our most vulnerable Vermonters. In addition to his pioneering work in the development and implementation of addiction medicine protocols, Dr. Wolfson has been a tireless advocate for the work of certified peer recovery coaches in the emergency department. Having seen firsthand the powerful impact of Dr. Wolfson's leadership with the EDRC program, it is clear how crucial a strong advocate is in transforming care for those with substance use disorder. Dr. Wolfson's efforts have directly led to the emergency department becoming a more compassionate and inclusive space for patients seeking care for their substance use disorder. We are proud to recognize Dr. Wolfson and his commitment to the field of addiction and recovery with this year's 2025 Lifetime Achievement Award. Not going to steal, I'm not going to do it again.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. This incredible honor that I was not expecting. And through the lens of the emergency department, this has just been quite a journey, you know. At first, all we did was give naloxone, and we thought we had saved somebody. And then we just realized through my work with ComStat up in Burlington and folks who were doing recovery work that it wasn't enough. And the idea came up, why not start buprenorphine in the emergency department? It's like, we can't do that, but we did. And then they changed the game up on us, right? Fentanyl came along. And now treating addiction is so much more challenging. And people were having precipitated withdrawal. And so the old ghost came back, methadone. We started prescribing that in the emergency department. They said we can't, but we did. And then even that stopped working as well. And so now we're trying to advance the science. We're designing new protocols to titrate methadone up more quickly for people that need it. And got some publications out on it. So we're just trying to do the medicine side of this. But throughout all of that, it's those peer recovery coaches in the emergency department that have like made this all possible. So yes, working with Rick, with Dr. Levine and the health department, it's been amazing. My research team at UVM, and but like Javed said before, the magic sauce is really those recovery coaches who just make all the difference to actually get through and help people. So thank you for everything. I really appreciate it.
Next, we'll bring up for our next award, but I'd just like to express my personal thanks to Will Roberts for helping with our tech for today, doing a magical job. Just my whole team, but Martina Anderson was just incredible throughout this process, and you know, made this day just come together beautifully. And then, you know, I have such deep respect and gratitude for my colleague, Lisa Lord, who is our Director of Operations and also the Recovery Friendly Workplaces Initiative Director. And I firmly believe that her work has advanced the Recovery Friendly Workplaces movement in the state for years. But to me, what she means is, you know, I'm not sure VAMHAR would exist without Lisa. Lisa stepped in as director before I was appointed, but every day she's someone who tackles every single problem just courageously and without question, and is so immensely capable and just an incredible colleague. So please welcome Lisa Lord.
Hello all. Very generous words, Daniel. Thank you. Beautiful sight, looking at all these incredible faces, and thank you all for being here. As we all know, recovery is not just a personal journey, it is a collective one. Vermont needs workplaces to take the lead in their communities and to say, we care, we support, and we believe in you. The Tammy Bushell Recovery Friendly Workplaces Award was created to honor Tammy's pioneering work of transforming her workplace, reducing stigma, and advocating for Vermont employers to become recovery-friendly workplaces. This award celebrates a revolution in the way that we think about work and wellness. A revolution that says you are not alone and you are not defined by your struggles. This year's award, recognizing a champion of recovery and hope, will be presented by Executive Director of the North Central Vermont Recovery Center, Shannon Carchidi.
Thank you, Lisa. So I actually increased the font size this morning because like clockwork, I forgot my readers. So I'm really glad that I did that. But thank you, Lisa. So I have the pleasure of talking about Manufacturing Solutions, also known as MSI. They're located in Morrisville and is a well-known large employer for us in the Lamoille County. They employ, on average, about 250 employees. I met with Beth Salvis, president of MSI, about 4 years ago and was immediately drawn to her compelling compassion for the well-being of their employees. Her genuine concern for bettering the lives of those that work at MSI was genuine. Not only that, but for recovery as well. As our conversation progressed, I quickly realized that their core values were embedded within their culture. These are their core values: accountability, flexibility, collaboration, solution-oriented, diversity, and wellness. Are we talking like our recovery language, right? So the North Central Vermont Recovery Center has had the pleasure of partnering with MSI as a local employer over the years in various ways. We've trained staff on how to administer and store Narcan within their facility. We have participated in multiple annual wellness fairs, giving us the chance to interact with their employees directly. And I have to say that human resources is a key component to this buy-in, right? This buy-in in a corporation and the success of the level of engagement. MSI is, we consider them a second, third, fourth time chance employer. They're dedicated to bettering their lives of others, and for that I'm proud to present the 2025 Recovery Friendly Workplace to MSI. Please help me welcome Coralie Helm, the Human Resources Director.
I just want to say thank you to VAMHAR and the Recovery Day Planning Committee for this incredible honor. Thank you to Shannon and the North Central Vermont Recovery Center for nominating us and being our partner. At MSI, we don't see this as going above and beyond. It's simply the way we believe that business should be done, supporting our employees in their wellness, recovery, and personal growth isn't an initiative, it's a part of who we are. We know that when people feel supported, they can thrive, whether that's through access to resources, a second, third, fourth, fifth chance, or just knowing that their workplace truly cares about them. If this recognition helps inspire other businesses to take steps towards becoming recovery-friendly workplaces, then this award means even more to us. Thank you again for the recognition and for the important work that you all do to break down the stigma and build stronger, healthy communities every day. Thank you.
We're in the home stretch here, folks. I'd now like to welcome Mariah Haggett and Rosemary Rosa to lead us in a moment of silence and remembrance.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rosemary Rosa, and I'm the Assistant Director at the Turning Point Center of Central Vermont. I'm also a certified recovery coach, and most importantly, I'm a person in long-term recovery. Our team at the Turning Point Center of Central Vermont is a very close-knit team. We consider ourselves a work family. In a one-year stretch, 2 members of our staff lost a child to an accidental overdose. It was absolutely devastating to our entire team, and we really didn't know how to find the path forward or the best way to support them or to support the community when this happens to members of our community. Our very own Mariah Haggett is one of the staff members who lost her son Tyler Matthews to an accidental overdose, and she is one of the strongest, most resilient and inspiring people that I've ever known, and she is the person that has helped Turning Point Center of Central Vermont pave a path forward for supporting folks that have lost somebody to substance use disorder. So it is an absolute honor to introduce you to Mariah Haggett.
Thank you. So, I've been a coach at Turning Point for about 3 years now. I'm now the supervisor of the recovery coaching in the emergency department program as well. After Tyler died, which was May 14th of 2023, on Mother's Day, we tried to, sorry, I'm really nervous. We tried to find added supports for our family, for the children, and the rest of his siblings, and for his friends. I had my own counselor that I could work with, so I was pretty well set. We found a huge gap in supports for grief. So after some time and talking with my director, Bob Purvis, and with Rosemary's help, I took a certification training online to be a certified grief coach. So I offer that as well with recovery coaching. We on the 1-year anniversary of Tyler's death, I started my first support group for him, or in his honor. So I have that every Tuesday now at the center, and I also offer one-on-one grief coaching for people. And a lot of times that's easier than coming into a group. We also did a memorial tree at the center as well. People can come in and put their name of a loved one on an ornament, and it's on a pre-lit tree, which is never shut off. It's always on. And that's for anybody that's lost somebody to substance use. And I also offer the one-on-one coaching for not just people that we work with, the folks that we're supporting, but also anybody who's doing this work and has lost somebody. I'm one person, but I'm willing to listen and support as best as I can. So if you would take a moment of silence with us for Tyler and everybody else that we've lost along the way, that would be great. Thank you.
Well, I have the honor to keep you here even later, which is a great spot to be in. And many who know me know that I can talk for a long time, so I really will try my best to make this short. And we, of course, understand if you have to leave, but I have the privilege to share with you all what people had shared with me really vulnerably when we asked, what does recovery mean to you? And so I am really grateful for everybody who has shared, and I wanted to just guide you through these slides for a moment. And it's really close to my heart because also people who know me know how much I love words and how deeply I believe in the power of words and how we should choose them wisely, because we can really foster empathy and compassion through how we show up and talk with and about people. So first, I just want to really ground us in the understanding that there is no way that we can, with a few slides, encompass what recovery means, because thankfully, recovery is such a multifaceted word. And I really want to make sure that we understand that recovery is a deeply personal and beautifully unique experience. And there is so much beauty in our shared experiences, and there's so much celebration in our shared experiences. But I also want us to not forget how much power there is in our differences. And I also wanted to share with you what SAMHSA defines recovery as. And again, this is just one definition of recovery. And they say it is a process of change through which individuals improve their health and wellness, live self-directed lives, and strive to reach their full potential. I think I'm going to step aside. I will not read each of these slides because I want you to read them for yourselves and also kind of think about what comes up for you when you read these and not be distracted by my voice. And then also think about what does recovery mean to you as you're reading these shares from the people who opened up to us. Thank you all.
That concludes our formal program for the day. Please feel free to take pictures with the banner up there. We're going to bring it up to the Cedar Creek room, and it'll be there until 1:30. We can go up to the cafeteria and mingle with legislators and with each other and connect. And then and there will be testimony throughout the State House. There at 3 o'clock, the resolution and some remarks from Representatives Daisy Burbico and Eric McGuire will be read on the House floor. So you all will be recognized up in the balcony. I really want to thank you here. And just as my parting words, I hope one of the things that you walk away with today is the belief in yourselves and the power of your stories and the power of your example. It's cliche to say this, to use this quote because it's so common, but the anthropologist Margaret Mead famously said that never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. As you've seen from today, small groups of people, individuals have and can change the world around us for the better, the lives of those of us around us for the better. So let's go forth and do that. Thank you.